You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Woo, woo, woo. This week, oh my goodness. Where do I start? I feel like every time I do this podcast, I do feel an intimate connection with all of you all have been listening since the very beginning, and also the newcomers, the new listeners. You know, we love our faithful Ernest stands who listen to this podcast every week, and those who kind of, drop in, when it gets a little hot. And I imagine this is one of those episodes where we'll have a couple of extra listeners, that might say, and if you like it, you can stay, subscribe, write a good review, a 5-star review. We love those over here at Ernestly Speaking, this independently Black queer podcast, executive producer and host. Here's mine, myself. But you still, support independent media, support independent Black media, support independent queer media, millennial media, shit. But no, it's been quite the week, as you all know. A lot of you have been following everything that's been happening. And, I treat this as almost like my confessional. Like I'm not Catholic, but if I was, this would be like, my confessional. I'll be going into some room and being like, Father, well, you all of that. And I'll just, talk to you all for 2 or plus hours and, get into it. But this week has definitely been quite the revelation on so many fronts. But I'm pacing myself because I need to, it's a lot. So I'm taking my time. Let's start back to where we were, or where we're going to be. Okay. So if you listen to this episode as one of the early listeners that core 200, then you know that Monday, okay, April 24th, at 7 p.m. if you set your DVRs, okay, on CBS 3 Philadelphia, for those who are in Philadelphia, that the PABJ Mayoral Candidates Forum will be airing on CBS 3 as an elections coverage special. And so it will be a 1-hour program that will feature myself, of course, because I was the esteemed host and moderator of the Candidates Forum, which included 6 Democratic candidates running for mayor. Those people are Amin Brown, Jeff Brown, Alan Dom, Helen Gim, Cheryl Parker, and Rebecca Reinhardt. Those were the 6 candidates that we had on the program. Yuki Washington, Bishop Mary Floyd Palmer, Jamil Q. Duncan, and Jamira Perry were the hosts. It was a great program. It was great for those who were part of that live taping. So some of you all who listen to this show got a chance to be a part of the live taping, which was on Thursday. And there is a stream if you want to watch the whole entire program, which runs for 90 minutes. You can go to the link in bio of my Twitter account or my Instagram account. And so if you click the link in my bio section, you click that link and there's always updates on my latest articles, my content, everything like that. Well, there is a link that will take you to the YouTube from the official Philly Cam YouTube channel that will let you be able to watch the whole 90-minute program. For the CBS portion, however, the CBS is going to be edited to an hour, and mostly it's going to run normally. So if you watched it already on YouTube and you already been caught up on the tea, the first 30 minutes of that program is almost like a pre-show. There's opening statements from the candidates. There is some, conversation and banter from myself, which I think is dope. I lay out the parameters. I talk about what makes this forum different. And then at the final hour of that 90-minute program is what will be aired on CBS 3 for the most part. I believe most of it will be. And that will show you, just basically the content, what happened with the candidates and all that jazz. And we'll get to some of that later in the podcast, but that is airing. So if you have a DVR, set your DVR, because that will be airing for the first time on TV on this Monday night at 7 o'clock on CBS3. So set those DVRs, keep your eyes and ears open, because it was a spicy moment in time. So that happened. Shout out to everybody who came out to Booker's or Bayou last week for the joint book signing that I did with Cherie Syfax, who's the owner of the new Booker's. Well, she's the new owner of Booker's. Booker's is not new. It's been around the block. But thank you all for coming out to that book signing. It was dope. It was a book talk that I had. It was moderated by Cherry Gregg from WHRY. And it was a great conversation. We talked about just our books and our experiences and things. And so many of y'all came out. Shout out to, of course, my girl Janine Cook from Harriet's, who of course distributed those books. She's my direct personal distributor of my book when I go on different tours and events. And so she was just fabulous as always. Now I'm here to give you all some updates. So stay tuned for your calendar. We are getting ready for, we are past the second month of the book, which means we're getting ready for phase 3 of the books, of the book, of the book tour, tier 3, phase 3, cycle 3 of the book tour. As we get into, now we're entering what will be the third month. There is going to be some travel. We're getting ready for early summer, late spring. But really more so, we're going to kick off the summer. There will be a summer tour that is national. So the third leg of the tour, we'll go back national. I thought I was ready to get back outside, but it's just that, listen, y'all see what's going on. I'm booked and busy. I can't hold you. And not just within the book realm, but just other things that have been going on in my career in a good way. This is all good news. And I got a lot of things going on in a good way. Some stuff I can't tell you all yet. And some stuff that, I just got to wait and see stuff process, because sometimes I jump ahead. I'm learning, as I go. I have to let the ink dry. When the ink dry and shit process, then that's when I can go, because sometimes I get excited like everybody else and I get a little jumpy. But I've learned that when the ink dries, when there's the stamp of approval and everybody's saying, okay, it's time to go, that's when I go. So I just have to be in that place of just sitting on some things. And it's just, that's why it's good to have really close friends, because then you can just kind of tell them those things. But yes, things are coming. But the good thing is there will be a national summer tour. I can say that. I can confirm that. And that's going to kick off. We're going to the South. We're going to the South. We're going to the Midwest. We're going some of the West Coast. East Coast, I love y'all. Y'all had me the first leg. But, y'all had me the first leg, yeah. But now 3's a charm, 3 the hard way. We're going to the South. So there is going to be some dates that are coming soon. We're confirming some things, getting some things together. Because really, what I want to do, and I realized with this tour, is that initially the plan was like, hey, when cities come, we're just going to just go here or there. But mentally in my schedule, it's just like, it's just hard to just pick and choose. Like, okay, you go here now and you go here now. Now, sometimes there's stuff that's you just can't turn down. Like Santa Clara, I was like, oh, you went to the West Coast in the middle of your East Coast? Well, yeah, because Santa Clara was a bag, and a big bag, but also it was just something I had already planned for months in advance, and it involves people I cared about. So I really wanted to get down there. But that doesn't mean I'm ignoring and neglecting LA. I'm just going to put that out there. There are some stuff. So what I'm trying to do is get this all together in a way where I could be able to hit cities next to each other and just kind of travel and do my thing on that front, rather than going down south one time and then coming back for 3 weeks and then going back again. I want to hit these things next to each other, so that I could, so it can make sense. So that's where my personal goal is to hit those cities next to each other, and especially in the South, because that's kind of what I did with the East Coast. It was like, we did Philly, we did DC, we did Boston, we did New York, not necessarily in that order, but they were kind of around the same time. And so that made it easier for me travel wise. And also I was able to kind of be in book mode, because like when you're doing the book and you have like, if you're like, imagine talking about a certain topic, you want to kind of have that mindset, because I have been working on this book for years, and so mentally and emotionally, if you're already on that mindset and that focus, it's easy to just hit the media marks and all those things at the same time. So that's where my focus is. But there will be some cool Philly opportunities in May. And so I definitely want to talk about that. So I have a scheduled interview for WHRY on this new show called Studio 2 that has Cherry Gregg, and I will be doing that show next month in May. That's coming up early May. Stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be doing a book signing. I believe the goal is in May at Barnes & Noble, at the new Barnes & Noble in Center City, because I've always wanted to go there, and I haven't had a chance because of the renovations that was happening. It relocated off of the Rittenhouse location, and now it's on 17th and Chestnut. So that is getting in the works, and I feel comfortable to say that, but the date will be coming soon. So we will be at that Barnes & Noble. They have loved me. They've shown love to the book. So it's pretty dope to be in that circle. Also coming up, and I think I'm gonna put the link in bio soon, but myself and Brett Mendel. So Brett Mendel, if you don't know who Brett Mendel is, he's a big deal in Philadelphia political scene. He sued the city of Philadelphia, directly the sheriff's office, and had a big, huge 6-figure settlement. No joke, sued the city for, I believe, wrongful termination and some other things related to the sheriff's office. He was only in there a couple of days, but saw some corruption, alleged corruption in his viewpoint, and got a settlement. Okay, got a quick coin. And it's all on the internet. You can look it up. There's articles and reports about it. But he basically called out what he believed to be corruption in the sheriff's office. And he has a new book coming out right before the election. It comes out May 5th. It's called Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting. It's being published by Temple University Press. And Brett is, someone who I've enjoyed, connecting with over the past year or so, and really just talking about his journey in Philadelphia politics and all that jazz. This is a very juicy book. He talks a lot about corruption in Philadelphia over the decades and really keeps it 100. And so, me, I love talking about scams and fuckery and fraudulence. So it was absolutely, of course I was going to be a part of this in some kind of way. So the cool thing is I have an advanced copy of the book in my hand as I'm talking to you all. The book is Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting, a city's struggle against an epithet. And the book, on the back of the book, I put my review, which is on the back of the book, and it's a hardcover copy. It's a very gorgeous book. They did a really good job. The book is over 200 something pages. And what's even cool is I looked and he cites me in the book in his references. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I have 4 references in the book that he cites. He cites his sources. Like, I love a good bibliography that cites their sources, because the door loves what people cite. If you look at my book, my citations are over the top. But that's just because you just need to give people credit, So he cites me from Philadelphia Magazine. One of the quotes is, excessive drama surrounding petition challenge to the turnoff of voters. I wrote that in 2019. He cites that. He also cites the column I wrote on Jared Solomon on calling for Bobby Heenan's resignation. I stepped up. That was March 4th. He also cite my piece from 2019. The people opposing Alan Dom's term limits bill are the best reason to pass it. And then he also cites a piece I did in 2019 called Shakeups and Sure Bets, 4 major takeaways from Tuesday's primary, which was in 2019 when Kenny had got reelected. So he did his work, and it's dope. So let me tell you the review I give of the book, and I hope that you all order and check it out. So here's what I say, quote, "At a time when our city is at a political crossroads, Mandel's book arrives not a moment too soon. Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting is the most riveting assessment of our city's infamous history of political corruption. Mandel leaves no stone unturned as he peels back the layers of how a local culture of complicity has led us to witnessing constant federal probes, indictments, and convictions. This is a must-read for any concerned citizen, regardless of political affiliation." Ernest Owens, award-winning journalist and author of The Case for Cancel Culture. So shout out. I'm on Back of Books now. So we're doing a joint event. I am in conversation with him about his book at the Free Library downtown, the big free library on the Parkway. I will be there on May 11th. So mark your calendars. More details will be coming soon, but it's going to be in the evening. It's going to be May 11th. And we'll be in conversation about his book and political corruption. It's going to be days away from the election, so it's going to be hot. And there will be a book signing for both my book, The Case for Council Culture, and his book, Philadelphia, Corrupt and Consenting. So if you haven't seen me in Philadelphia, please show up. Buy his book, buy my book. I will sign them in person, and I will take selfies. So we'll both be there tag teaming at the Free Library. This just in, and it's going to be a dope conversation, and I look forward to really meeting more of you all. Booker's last week was dope. It was so nice. It was such a nice room and nice vibe, but it's even going to be better at the Free Library, especially when we're kind of talking about the same things, but in a different way. So I'm really excited about it, and Brett's book is juicy, okay? When I tell you this book is juicy, he goes in. He goes in about corruption. He names names. He leaves no crumbs. Okay, there's people in this book that I personally know. I was like, ooh, you didn't have to go in. He went in. He's a guy who went in. The book cover is riveting. I really, really love the book cover. It's a really good text. It's a really good book cover. But it's juicy. And I think a lot of people, we haven't had a book like this in a minute. There's been books about certain people, but books specifically about corruption and Philadelphia, and someone like him who has confronted it and walked away with a bag. Listen, we could all learn something from Brad. So I think, look forward to it. I think people can pre-order it now. I'm not sure, but the book officially comes out on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. But then, of course, you can get the book. You can get the book at this event on May 11th. The distributor for our both of our books from the Free Library is going to be through Uncle Bobby's Books. So it's a Black, Uncle Bobby's, owned by Mark Lemai Hill. It is a Black-owned book publisher. So it's always just good to have those connections, and that you're supporting a Black bookseller. So, local. So, this book is going to be in different places, but I really want people to join us for this conversation. Could you imagine me and Brett Mandel having a conversation about Philadelphia corruption? It's a free event at the Free Library. The RSVP information, I'm going to put soon, link in the bio. I might put it out early. I'm waiting for the flyer to come out, and then once that all drops, then, we'll announce it. But you all are hearing this first, so save it on your calendar if you can. But yeah, that's coming up. More will come on that. So, what I've been eating lately, because people's been asking about that. I've been doing a lot lately. So let me just start by saying that Rescue Spa, in Rittenhouse has been changing my life. I've been using some new products from just a few. I know y'all like, oh, here he go again with his skincare. Goodness gracious, you put all that shit in your skin. Listen, there are different things, but I've been trying to figure out, because a lot of men that listen to this podcast, not many women ask me about skincare. Sometimes, but a lot of men have been trying to ask me what kind of skincare products are for men specifically. Now, I'm a unisex gal. I like to use different types of products that I just think go well with my skin. But I have found a men's skincare regimen that I think is worthy of inspection. I've been using some of the products, just, trying it out. But I think you all might be interested for men who are in Philly. I don't know if there's rescue spas all across the East Coast. I believe some probably in New York. But there is a company called MBR, Medical Beauty Research. And they're made in Germany, but they are here in Philly at Rescue Spa. And there are some other Rescue Spa locations. And I think you can get some of the products individually online. But if you want to go try it on your skin, get a consultation, you can go to Rescue Spa and see it for yourself. But there is a new line for men's skin at MBR. That is a new skincare line specifically for men's skin that is quite remarkable. Now, I have my own skin regimen, so I tried it and I loved it, and the skin has been popping. My favorite product I've been using has been the Enzyme Cleansing Booster, and I've been using that product in between my skincare regimen. So after I do my oil cleansing, I do my general face wash is before I go into toner mode. Yes, before I get into toner mode, I use this. And then I apply the toner, and then I do the moisturizer and everything else. But this has been a nice booster that has given my skin great radiance. Now, they have the booster, they have moisturizer, they have all the other skincare products, and those are great too. But I, didn't want to get too deep in. But the product, I did a whole full face with their product, and it is solid, and it's really good. But what I am going to continue doing is the enzyme cleansing booster for my skin because I have a skin regimen. So if you already have a skin regimen already and it's working for you, I recommend that most of you all probably, I'm assuming, maybe I shouldn't assume, but I'm assuming that many men do not have the enzyme cleansing booster in their regimen. So you might be doing oil cleansing. And if you have not done oil cleansing, go back to some of my previous episodes and hear me talk about why it's a great thing to do. But if you don't do oil cleansing, but you're doing regular facial wash, let's just say, this booster is good before you do toning. It's a cool thing. Some people say you don't need it. Maybe you don't need it. But listen, if you're trying to get to that level, okay, of radiance, ultra radiance, throw this in, add this in. It does make the difference. I must say, I have seen some real improvement with my hyperpigment. I don't really have extreme hyperpigmentation anymore, but this is something that has kept the tone even longer. And I have felt tightness in a good way, like a lot of lifting and firming that is just even boosting. I think the skin was already firming and doing this thing anyway. But this enzyme boost, I feel like, was already keeping the face right and just preserving the sexy. And so we just got to do those things. I'm 31. I'm investing early into the skincare. I've been keeping the skincare routine for a while, but I just feel like, for my millennials and for my Gen Zers, it's like start getting into that habit. A lot of people look at my mom. She's gorgeous. She's 52. She does not look it at all. And we're not doing any Botox. And I'm not judging people who do. That's your prerogative. If you like Botox, by all means, do what you do. Be safe. Get your life. But for me, I'm trying to do it in ways that does not require me to go under unless I have to. But I'm, at least if I can get a head start, I'm using my 30s. I've used my late 20s, my 30s to get into the process to do this more holistically and naturally without having to do other things. But some people, you might start off doing this later in life. And so you need to get something to get you a head start. There's no judgment here on Ernestly Speaking. By all means, do what you got to do to stay, preserve and be beautiful. By all means. But, however, for people who do want to just say, look, I don't have money to do surgery and do all those things, there are products that you can get on the counter that is natural, that is good for your skin, that you can do and not spend as much money. So I try to provide affordable measures and ways to do this without having to break the bank. Now, for those people who was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, there was this product I called Danucera, Danucera. They're still popping over there at Rescue Spa. They gave me a nice kit, traveling kit to keep preserving the sexy. Because sometimes when I'm traveling, it is sometimes a lot to do my major 7-step routine that I do daily with Kiehl's products. Love Kiehl's. Y'all know I'm a Kiehl's girl. But sometimes I just want to do it one quicker. And they have a really good, Danucera has a really good, all-in-one type of package that does there's the toning vibe, but then there's also the serum and then the face wash. But it's very multi-step within 2 to 3 products max and does everything I need to do. And that holds me over for 2 or 3 days of travel. You can't do, I personally don't do it every day because I like to keep my routine going a certain kind of way. But for some people who might feel I want to see what it is, check it out. It's Danucera. Danucera, look them up online, check out what I'm talking about. They have this really great product on the market. I just met the owner again, who's the CEO of this company. She stopped in Rescue Spot at the same time I stopped by. That's my good Judy. She keeps the skin looking cute. So yes, so for my men, MBR, which they also have women products, by the way, let me just say that. The enzyme cleansing booster product I'm telling you about, They're really dope. Women can use it, men can use it. It's unisex. That product is unisex. But for people out there who's like, look, I'm trying to get my boyfriend or my brother, my cousin, my friend on a better men's skincare regimen, I recommend MBR at Rescue Spa. So check it out. See what it says. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But I try to, people always, there's this culture I'm hearing about lately where people are really saying to me that, and I never heard this before, but someone says that there are people out here that are really like hoarders around restaurants or something, like, or places, like they don't like to tell people where they go to have fun or give people like they go out traveling or go out places, and apparently they like to withhold the knowledge because they want to be territorial around things. I never heard of this shit before, but apparently there's a thing. So someone had saw that I was at a play, the Lady Day in Emerson Grill, and in the play, and they asked me, "Oh, where did you go?" And I said, "Oh, I went to the theater. I always promote where I go." And this person said, "Oh, I'm so happy that she was willing to share, because some people out here don't want people to know where they're going." Let me read exactly what they said. They said that. Oh, here they go. They said, okay, I didn't know about the others. Thank you for not hoarding information. Sometimes people get to a certain status and become very exclusionary. It's almost like they share pictures just to not share the information when people are intrigued. Who the fuck does that? People are weird. But I saw there was this post on Twitter or something where a person was saying they put a picture up of some Chinese food or something they was eating at some restaurant, but they didn't want to tell people where they were going. And I don't know. That's weird. Because one, you're hurting the fucking business. Like, sometimes you could be hurting the business on something, because sometimes the gentrifiers come. But I will never withhold information from people in my community about places. I feel like you should tell people about things because I don't know. People are weird. I don't know. I'm never going to be territorial about something that's not mine. Like, restaurants are good. If you think a restaurant is good, you should tell people to go. Like, what are we, 5? Like, that's my spot. You can't go to my spot. Like, who the fuck? It's not your spot. You don't own it. But I guess there's people out here who do that. I don't know. But I shared to her and told her. And most of the times, if I'm out, I do. It was interesting because I'm actually going to talk about this. I was out with Mr. Johnson. We went on a date. And we went out on a Sunday date. And I posted these pictures of the food. I thought people recognized where the restaurant was at. They clearly did not. It was George Joan Pine. But people were, figuring out what was happening, and I was just keying. So it was a lot. It was a lot going on, for sure. But yeah. So more about where did I go? So these places I went to this weekend, for dinner and things. So first off, one of my besties, Abel, came from New York to come to Philly impromptu. We had happy hour at Dim Sum House to catch up, and Mr. Johnson and him went to dinner at Pumpkin BYOB on Friday, because I had dinner with my fave, okay, one of my favorite friends, Lauren. We got together, our monthly dinner date we do. Last month, it was at Pearl and Mary, the seafood place, the Seafood Tower. Well, this time we did River Twice. But before I get into River Twice, let me tell you about Dim Sum House. Dim Sum got a cute happy hour situation, okay? It's great in University City. We was getting a nice tip. It's a cocktail there called the Young and Dangerous, and it lives up to its name. They got really good happy hours, y'all. Like, I think the cocktail was like $6, like $6 cocktails. I don't know if they still do the pictures. Maybe they still do the pictures, but we just was not going to get that drunk. But we had food. I mean, they had the salt and pepper wings. They had buns. It was a good happy hour, and we just was catching up on everything that's been going on in New York and in Philly in our lives, and so it was dope. Mr. Johnson, who was his college roommate and also his best man in our wedding, and he was also my college roommate. Fun fact. They went to Pumpkin BYOB and caught up. Now, Pumpkin BYOB is a cute spot. Apparently very affordable BYOB, because you can just get like 3 courses under like, I think around 60 something bucks, but apparently it's a great spot. We went there for restaurant week a couple years ago. I haven't been back, but apparently it's still good, according to Mr. Johnson. So I was at River Twice, and let me tell you about River Twice. It's on East Passyunk, okay? Which is, in my opinion, the restaurant capital of Philadelphia, East Passyunk. That is where all the top tier restaurants, you got Laurel, you got a lot of places over there in East Passyunk that's just legendary. But there is River Twice, and it's a pretty newish restaurant. They have a chef's counter tasting menu that is $165 per person. It comes with about 16 courses. I'm going to go down the row of what we ate. We had a sweet potato coriander, sweet potato miso to start with. It was chilled pottage. We had oysters from Maine with ponzu and trout roe caviar. We had a brioche ice cream with olive oil, golden Astoria caviar and mayor lemon, which is another caviar dish. Tartlet of smoked salmon with toasted buckwheat and chisozo. Maine fish with caracara and spring onion and myoga. I cannot pronounce some of this stuff. It was just too good. Chilled chamamushu with uni and fermented turnip. Live surf clam with green uzu, kosu, black radish, and pea tendrils. Tempura with seasoned with vinegar powder and teranomu seasoned of tempura of tempura. Listen, I don't know. It was good as fuck. Then there was Long Island snails with amorosa potato confit, fiddleheads, butter, and snail caviar. There was also hirmasa kala and fried sunchoke fukake. I don't know, but it was good. Main scallop with garbanzo bean shoots and a pesto of spring greens, yuzu and hazelnut, albacore tuna, takaki with black makigaki, sour parsnip puree, and apple skin kombucha. Then there was the Mother Rucker, which was a double patty burger that was like a 70-30 grass-fed from Primal Supply with pickled red onions and this delicious melted ass cheese. And that was a fucking good ass burger. It was probably the best burger I've had in Philadelphia in years. And it's called the Mother Rucker. And you can get that off the menu separately if you like. Then there was for dessert, a frozen bittersweet chocolate with whipped white chocolate, sunflower seeds, coffee, and beignet. A peanut miso ice cream with Saint Malachi Reserve, and a brown butter and cinnamon cookie. It was wild, y'all. It was wild. So we had that $165 per person. And then we shared a bottle of wine, which it was reasonable. It was like $70. They had we did red wine, so it was like a bottle of red for $70 and they had one for $60. But we just needed one bottle of red. We did not do the $75 pairing per person for wine because we realized that it was so much stuff on that pairing. It was like cider and reds and whites. And y'all know I hate white wine. I hate white wine. So I was just kind of like, let's just see what this bottle gonna do. Because my logic was, if we get 2 bottles of red, right, at 60 or 70 a piece, technically, we're not drinking a whole bottle apiece. We didn't. We only needed a bottle, but it made more sense. So I recommend this Chef's Counter. This is an optional. You could do a la carte at that restaurant at River Twice, but if you want to be, splurge and have some good fun and celebrate, I recommend this as a date night. I recommend this as 2 best friends having a good time, not giving a fuck about anything. If you're gonna propose to somebody, this might be cute. If you're trying to really wow someone, impress, it'd be cute. If you're just a foodie that just want to eat your way through the world, this is the place. But it's fun. It's experimental. If you're picky, I don't eat this, I don't like that, don't come here. Don't come here. I'm just telling you right now, this is not the place to try to alternate a menu. You can't alter this menu. This menu is so experimental that literally if you say you don't eat this or you don't eat that, you don't eat this, they do adjust with some allergies. Let me be clear about that. But if you're somebody who just don't like a lot of things, this is not the place for you. There's only so many alterations you can do before the menu is not helping you. So, yeah. So, let me explain a little bit about River Twice. Their logic is a river is a constant force that continuously evolves as it carves its path toward the sea. It moves through the seasons, enriching the cycle of nature, creating a symbolic relationship above and below the water's surface. Like a river, our menus are constantly evolving, and what dishes you see today may take a different form tomorrow. That's River Twice. Best damn new tasting menu in East Passyunk. I know there are some other restaurants around there that got great tasting menus, but I said it. This is the best tasting menu in East Passyunk right now. And people who understand the importance of East Palestine in the Philadelphia restaurant scene, for me to say that is taking a very strong stance, and it is political and it is controversial. But I am going to say it that they have the best tasting menu in East Palestine right now, and I have had, I believe, every tasting menu East Palestine at every restaurant, every main restaurant that is worthy of that consideration. Laurel is incredible. And I know Laurel has now went a la carte with some of their options. They have a phenomenal classic taste menu. There's no taking it there. I actually bumped into Nick Elmy, who is the chef there, the executive chef, the owner, who I bumped into him while I was at River twice. And I saw him walking by and I was like, hi. And he was dope. But this menu was something memorable. It definitely is in the top 10 of memorable restaurant experiences I had in Philadelphia. And so it was fabulous. So I also went to Giorgio and Pine, which was fabulous. Of course, like I said before, Mr. Johnson and I, definitely light fare. The bill at that dinner with our bottle, we brought our own, was BYOB. That bill was like, maybe with all the tax, tip, everything, was around $130. But we ate fabulously. We had the specials, because I love the specials. My favorite special at Giorgio and Pine is the Parmesan crusted pork chop with the potatoes and the spinach and that delicious rich red sauce. It is incredible. It's a favorite. Mr. Johnson had the veal with the stuffed prosciutto veal, which was awesome. And then we shared the lobster stuffed ravioli. And then for dessert, we had the creme brulee, tiramisu. But they gave us, because we were like favorites at that restaurant. We've gone to Giorgio Pine. I've been going to Giorgio Pine for over 10 years. Like, that is an institution. Anyone who's been my best friend has went to that restaurant with me at one time in their life or multiple times. We've had birthday parties there, dinner parties there. We had our wedding rehearsal dinner there. We've done things there for years. It is an institution. Every friend of mine, any person who considers themselves like a bestie of mine, has known my love for that restaurant, has either ate there with me or been a part of something there with me there. It's just, it's a real serious institution, and it's an important restaurant in Philadelphia. To me, it is the best Italian BYOB in Philadelphia. I don't give a fuck who you name. They are the best. Giorgio on Pine is consistent. What makes them a great restaurant is that it's not about look, it is noisy. It is a little tight in there, and sometimes it gets a little hot in there. But that's not what it's about. This food is just good. It's good portions. It's affordable. It's options for everybody. And for all of my folks that do not eat gluten-free, it is the best damn spot for you. I have a good close friend who she's the wife of another friend of mine, and she cannot eat gluten. Like, she just cannot. And so when we had this birthday party a couple years back, I remember she was like very like, oh, I don't know, it's Italian. They had a wide range of gluten-free options. And that's hard to find in a city like Philadelphia. And what I love about Italian restaurants and birthday parties is that every time I have large birthday dinners, my logic has always been, I want to have it at a restaurant with food that can adjust for people's dietary restrictions without ruining for everybody else. So people always say, why do people go to Chinese places, Chinese restaurants or Italian restaurants for dinners? Or buffets in general. Because normally, if you've got a crowd of a mixed crowd, somebody who don't eat pork, you can find a pork substitution. Somebody don't eat gluten, you can find a gluten-free substitution. There's always something for everybody at places like that. Now, every restaurant might have that, but it's harder when you're looking at main traditional dishes. Like Italian places, you could do pasta so many different ways. You could do pasta that's great for vegans. You could do pasta that is good for vegetarians. You could do pasta that is pescatarian for people who don't eat pork or whatnot, and red meat. There's 1,000 ways to remix the dietary things, and even the same thing with Chinese food and Asian and some Asian cuisine. So I just feel like Giorgio Pine just does it well. I don't know anyone who's been to Giorgio Pine and thought the food was disgusting, did not like the experience. It is very good. They do great service. They just have a good situation going from them there. And I love that they've expanded. So there was Bocconcini, as you all know, which Bocconcini was next door. My girl, Crystal Fox, man, RIP to that restaurant. That was one of my favorites, man. She left to go to Detroit, and that she resold it. I think Giorgio Pine now has re-owned it. So now he owns both of those restaurants again, together. They're next to each other. So check it out. They're interesting because I don't know, they do. I think they do open table reservations, but it's always good to call if you want to do a birthday dinner or party. And you might get Georgia himself who will answer the phone, and he's yelling because sometimes it's hard for him to hear some of the things on the phone with all the chatter in the background. But for somebody who is working a restaurant like that, he does not miss his reservations. He does not miss names. He doesn't miss a beat. They keep you confirmed on schedule. I mean, they run that place like a tight ship. And Jamie, when the server's there, she is incredible. That's my girl. Just a great place. Love that place down. Also, other things that I love down. Patty Jackson. So I don't know if you all have seen the good news, but Patty Jackson was honored this past week at for her work that she's done. And I just wanted to give her a personal shout out, but she was inducted in the Philadelphia Music Alliance Walk of Fame on Broad Street. She's the first woman in the industry to be honored with that. And she was also being honored alongside Leslie Odom Jr., who, of course, is the Tony Award winning actor and Oscar nominated actor, who also just had a great cameo in Abbott Elementary. So he was also honored as well. He went to Overbrook. He's Philly royalty in its own right. So they were both honored, but she had an after party luncheon vibe at Southside, which is next to South, which I just told y'all about. She had her event there, and it was a lot of people, and it was who's of Black media and politics, and everyone was there. But it was great to see her. We got a picture, and she's just killing it, man. She's just dope. Love her to pieces. So congrats, Patty. So let's get into what's been going on in general. Fetterman is back. Let me just say that. Senator John Fetterman, okay, our esteemed senator from Pennsylvania, our U.S. senator, he is back. He is getting the ground running. John is back, and so I just am happy that he had a stint. That he took some time, rehab, just reflecting and getting treatment and taking care of his depression and focusing on his health. And he's back. He's back. He's well. He's going in stride. He's hitting the ground running. And I'm happy for him. And I think what he's done, he's been on some TV specials, some interviews. Of course, his wife, Giselle, who was just incredible. They're starting the conversation about mental health in a different way and really getting some people to be open and vulnerable and share their experiences. And it's been just very powerful to watch. So I'm just happy he's back and he's well and he's keeping it going. And shout out to Fetterman. So in other news that's been going on, I want to talk about justice for Ralph Yarl. So if you don't know who Ralph Yarl is, if you have not heard his name, which is, it's I'll be shocked if you haven't heard his name, but there's been protests and national outrage, that has taken place last week. So on Monday evening, last Monday, let me go back a little bit. On April 13th, which was like about 2 weeks ago, Ralph Yarl, he is 16 years old. He's a 16-year-old high school junior, okay? He survived a shooting. He was in a hospital. And the whole situation is because he was shot because his family has said that he accidentally came to the wrong address to pick up his younger siblings. And this is a situation of just accidentally knocking on the door while Black, going to the wrong house while Black. He is 16 years old in Kansas City, okay, and was shot. Could have lost his life. He survived. And last Monday, the Clay County prosecutor identified the shooter. The shooter is named Andrew Lester, an 84-year-old white man. And as you all can imagine by already now, Ralph Yarl is Black. He's still alive. He was charged. He faced felony criminal charges of first-degree assault and armed criminal action against, that was the charges filed against him. A warrant was issued for his arrest. Dave showed his mugshot. He looks like a piece of shit. There's been a lot of outrage. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump and Lee Merritt said Biden spoke with the teen and his family. I'm going to reserve my shade for Ben Crump and Lee Merritt. I'm just going to say this. I'm trying, okay, I'm trying, but here's what I'm going to say. These two always seem to pop up when a black person gets shot. And I won't say that it's not, it's just very interesting. That's all. I'm going to leave. I'm going to keep it there. I'm just going to keep it there. It's just, holding my words. These are one of those moments where I'm like, I don't want to say this on the podcast. I'm going to reserve my right to pass and go have that conversation with my close friends. But all I want to say is what I will say to you all listening to this episode right now is, and that's all I'm going to say. Take it how you want to, but I'm going to say, because the lawyer going to listen to this episode. He going to say, I'm going to say, That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Moving along. There's been a lot of emotions around what happened in Kansas City. Vice President Kamala Harris also tweeted that, let's be clear, no child should ever live in fear of being shot for ringing the wrong doorbell. Every child deserves to be safe. Look at her. There is still a lot of details apparently about the shooting that's unclear. I mean, what is there not clear? He went to the wrong door. White man saw him and shot him. But, Yarl was seriously injured, okay? And he was able to run to a neighbor's house for help, and he was hospitalized for 3 months. The police has refused to release details about the shooting, including how many times Ralph Yarl was shot or where he was technically injured. Police also has declined whether the homeowner called 911. Ooh, child. You know why he didn't call. Listen, this is my thoughts. Okay, opinion side now. Opinion quarter real quick. I don't think he called the cops. I think he just shot him and said whatever. I don't think he called the police prior. Lock his ass up, okay, and throw away the key. Now, they will not. Now, many of you all would say that this man should get shot for attempted murder. He's not being charged for attempted murder. And I think the logic is that they can't, I guess the logic is they couldn't say attempted murder because they can't say it's premeditated. However, my whole challenge to this is that if he did not call the police before he shot this boy, which, let's be clear, is unacceptable. But before he shot this teenager, if he didn't call the police before or during or after this, then that tells me a lot there. And there should be some charges. Lock his ass up. I don't care if they say he's 84 years old. Disgusting. So, this could have been someone knife would have been killed. The fact that this young man has a future, the fact that he's able to have a future, the trauma he's going to experience is just a lot. And this man deserves to face all the fullest consequences for what he has done. Period. Another big news. Where do I want to start with news? I'm going to start with this Twitter verification shit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this saga. So, as you all know, for the past couple of months, Elon Musk has been tossing around the reality of giving away verification check marks, selling them to subscribers, and forcing people who do not want to get in compliance that they would have to buy them or whatever like that. So the logic is that if you don't pay for subscribe to Twitter Blue, then you will lose your blue check mark. That's the logic. You will lose your blue check mark if you do not subscribe to Twitter Blue. Okay? If you subscribe, then you will keep it. Even if you are not a person who has no business. There's a subscription. I don't know how much it costs. I think it's $8 a month, $15 a month. But anywho, if you pay, if you want a blue check right now, you could get one. Even if your ass ain't saying anything, but you just wanted to have a feeling that I guess you thought was going to make you feel legit. But if it's for free, it don't. If you can buy it, then it loses I'm just going to be cute. So apparently you can now buy. You can subscribe on Twitter Blue, and you yourself can get a blue check mark and feel like you're somebody, whatever. Elon Musk is just running Twitter to the ground. I guess he's trying to find value in it. So initially, he scared all these celebrities. He's like, oh, these multimedia celebrities, these companies. Apparently, if you're a regular person, the subscription is like $8 a month if you're just an individual. But if you are a company, it's like $1,500 a month, I believe, for you have to subscribe. And you have to do this a month in order to pay for it. And so this was his revenue, was like, if we sell verifications, then that will force people to have to subscribe. That was the logic, that you have to pay for the verification amount and subscribe to it. That was the vibe or the energy. Since that has happened, there's been a lot of reports of accounts being impersonated, a lot of just terrible misinformation and fake personalization of accounts. It's just been a shit show. So everybody kept saying he's going to pull the ledger, and of course he won't pull it. People thought he was bluffing. Well, over the weekend he did pull it, and the blue checks went away on several accounts. Major celebrities that you all have known, journalists and people, regular people, and a couple of news outlets like the New York Times. He pulled the blue checks. He just pulled them. He was like, fuck that. I'm pulling it. Y'all gonna have to buy. Well, a lot of people did not buy. Those celebrities did not go back to subscribing or buying. So then he was fucked. And so in the dark of the night, he decided that any celebrities with a million followers or more, they were going to get their blue checks restored. So Beyonce, for example, I saw this with my own eyes. Beyonce is not on Twitter at all. She has a Twitter account, but she doesn't use it. So I was like, let me see if Beyonce's blue check went off. Beyonce's blue check went off. And then within 24 hours, Beyonce's blue check came back on. Like, a lot of people's checks came back on. Now, let me tell you what happened. So if you had 1 million followers or more, now y'all looking at me like, yo, why your blue check still on? I don't know. I don't ask questions. Maybe I was highly favored. Because I don't have 1 million followers. I never subscribe to Twitter. I don't pay for play. I didn't subscribe. I don't know if Elon Musk, is like, look, that's a bad bitch, so I'm just going to keep her on active. I don't know. But my blue check ain't left. So I just was like, okay, maybe he skipped one. Or maybe I'm on a special list. I don't know. But the shit is wild because I'm just like, they don't see me yet. Duck. But I don't know. I've dodged it. I don't know. Maybe he's got like a list of people he like to fuck with. I mean, I know we had our drama in the Rolling Stones and everything like that, the tea and all that. Maybe he like, look, he's a pin girl. She's hot. I don't know, but he's kept me on there with the blue check. I've survived without subscription. I'm not asking no questions. People up there show their ass. They're like, why I still got a blue check? I don't want this shit. Listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm minding my business. I'm not fucking with God. He's the richest man in the world. I'm not playing with him. Okay? You gotta pick your battles. I'm not playing with that man. But there's a lot of celebrities, of course, who got their blue checks back. This girl never lost it. Face card never declined. I didn't lose my blue check. I don't know what everyone's talking about. But I saw people losing them. Maybe I saw it with my own eyes. But I haven't lost the check. And here's the thing. I never gave my cell phone to verify. They're saying now that, you this person subscribed and but I heard that apparently, I guess we gave the numbers to connect to our phone. So I guess he's verifying the confirmation because when you get a phone mobile app, I don't know. I have the mobile app. It's confirmed through my cell phone. So that's probably what he means by that. But whatever the case is, look, I'm not crazy about the whole situation. I'm just doing what I do. I will say, I'm just letting y'all know that the features for verified accounts has changed. You all have probably seen on my Twitter, I've been able to bold things, italicize things. I've been able to edit my tweets. I've been able to write longer ass tweets that some of y'all can't do based on the characters. There's been some interesting things that have happened. I'm not complaining. That's all I'm saying. I'm not complaining. I'm just, just taking my time. But what I will say, though, is that, so there's been all these celebrities who's had the same corny reactions. And so I've had to log off and ignore it. Like they're doing the whole, how did this happen? I didn't subscribe. Listen, you dumbass. Everybody knows you to subscribe. You're not special having this reaction that you're chosen. Like me, I'm not doing that on Twitter, y'all. I'm on the podcast. I'm telling y'all what it is. But there's people that do this whole little performative. Oh my God, how did my blue check come back? What happened? Child, you have over 1 million followers. That's what happened. Now, if you're one of these people like me out here with this special chemical gene or whatever DNA, you might have been able to slide through the cracks. And I don't know. Maybe Elon has his favorites. Maybe there's some people he's clocking on there and he just wants to keep the drama going because he likes mess. And we do have some mess on my Twitter. He might enjoy the mess. I don't know. But just, if the shit is not important, don't make it important. But it's important to some of these people, clearly. So, we'll see. Now, here's the news, the tea, okay? I was looking forward to seeing what was going to go down in Delaware. I thought this Fox lawsuit, man, was going to go down. I was hyped. I just knew in myself when the trial was going to start last week, I was like, oh, this is going to be juicy for the podcast. See, that's why I don't plan for the podcast too ahead of time because anything can happen. So I was just like, I'm going to follow this trial every week. I can't wait to see what's in Discovery. I can't wait to see people talk, the tea that's going to be spilled, Tucker Carlson, everybody at Fox News. This Dominion lawsuit is up and it's stuck. It's going down. I'm looking forward to this. Well, as you all know, last Tuesday, Dominion Voting Systems, okay, they settled their lawsuit against Fox News for $787.5 million. Okay? Beware and be aware, okay? Because Fox News is about to go even harder. And I will just even tell y'all real quick, though, is that if you thought the network was bad before it settled some Dominion's defamation lawsuit, we ain't seen shit yet. Because what it's telling us is that this is a significant amount of money. It is a portion of their annual profits. It is a lot of money. But this alone isn't going enough to financially hit them to make them change the way they've moved. I don't believe this is going to change anything because they are one of the only commercial TV channels that do not need a single advertisement to be profitable. They might be the only one. And people don't even know this, but Fox could have $0 in ad revenue and still have a 35% profit margin. Okay? Because let me tell you what was crazy. The reason why they make their money, let me break y'all down some media stuff, is that Fox News carries cable carriage fees. Okay? That is the result of those carriage fees and the guaranteed revenue that they will give Fox to continue to put out misinformation and disinformation. Now, let me be very clear. Various networks are paid carriage fees for every cable subscriber, okay? Now, these fees are negotiable. Providers and the companies can debate it, but many channels receive no fees, There are some like, ESPN that get multiple dollars per subscriber. And a lot of this is passed on to us as consumers because every time a provider agrees to pay a network like higher fees, its consumer bills go up. And this is information that is provided on MSNBC. MSNBC and other outlets have talked about this and shared this information about the finances. There's a really great piece by the president of Media Matters for America. Her name is Angelo. I think his name is Angelo Caruso. And did a really great piece for MSNBC that breaks down these issues. But, in this piece, in this report, he says, the only way that Dominion's lawsuit changes Fox is if it is part of a series of cascading consequences. They have a history of aggressive tactics. We know this already. They have an issue of whipping its audience into a frenzy that scares them and warns viewers that cable companies are trying to take them away. And then these people mobilize as protesters, the case for cancel culture, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. Issuing cause of action. But what they will not tell people is that Fox News, that this is effectively increasing their cable bills. That when they do stuff like this, they don't tell the viewers that these types of actions effectively increase their cable bills. And so now we know what's going to happen. Fox is going to put all its energy into these carriage renewals. because they will receive, if they increase the fees, they will then, be millions, hundreds of millions more revenue for them, and they will put this on the subscribers. So, this lawsuit is not going to neutralize their behavior. It is only the first in what we can see as a cascade of consequences that will hold Fox News accountable. But if anything, it's revealed that they are just a very partisan propaganda institution. That this is what they've been doing. We know what we know now. And, some people say that the settlement happened because the jury was majority black and brown. I wish that was the case. I don't think it was. I just think they were trying to figure out what could be the moment. I mean, listen, they could have lost it all at 1.6 billion potentially. But there's just so much more here at stake. And I think I was waiting to talk about this because so many of y'all was messaging me saying, "Ooh, look, Fox is down." I mean, this does hurt their credibility. But at the end of the day, what people have to remember is that people really like misinformation. People love confirmation bias. People love watching shit that's going to make them feel like they're better than other people. It's just going to be something all the time. And so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to change anything, but it's something to look at. Other news and media, because there's been a lot of shit going on in media lately. BuzzFeed News is dead. RIP. BuzzFeed News just did a bunch of layoffs. If you've been following the podcast for the past several months, you all have been noticing that, there's been consistent conversations about the future of media. They define the news of the last decade. BuzzFeed used to be worth 1.6 billion. Now it's down to 100 million. Digital news, y'all, is getting hit hard. Okay. And it's no joke, BuzzFeed is currently valued at 100 million. Even though last year was valued at 437 million in revenue it generated. And, in 2014, it was 850 million in 2014. That was nearly 10 years ago. And in 2015, 1.5 billion. But there's a lot going on, and people are wondering what's going to happen. You look at Facebook with major layoffs. You look at people wonder what's going to happen to Axios. Axios have had some good outcomes lately, but, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting conversation about advertisers, and all of these individuals want to make their own stuff on their own platforms like Substack. But it is a lot. And the money is just running. People are looking at what's been going on in the industry for a long time. And people just thought BuzzFeed News was supposed to do its thing. But a lot of people's been leaving. People have been going to other companies and trying to do their thing to boost their others. But this trend is no joke. And, it's sad that people lost their jobs. A lot of people did. 60 people lost their jobs. And it's sad because, BuzzFeed on the broader spectrum isn't doing well either. They laid off 120 or more employees who didn't work at the news operations, including the chief revenue officer and the chief operating officer. But it's getting real. And the warning light has been at BuzzFeed for a while for those who've been following media trends. And the rest of the digital media business, like just digital media alone, there was a boom. And I remember, and I'm not want to do the "I told you so" people, but I remember in the previous podcast episodes, I kept telling y'all that there was a moment where it felt like everything was going digital. Everyone was like content, create this, create that, and there was like a boom. I remember Mike. I remember all these places, and it was like, oh, everything's going digital, y'all. No one wants magazines anymore. No one wants newspapers. Let me tell y'all something. You can believe that all you want. It may not be the big old Hollywood red carpet era of newspapers and magazines, But there is still a space in place for them in this industry because the people who are subscribers and readers and pay subscriptions and readers are folks who want that shit. And a lot of them are largely older. A lot of them are largely, highly educated. They're not everyday people per se. The lifestyles they live, they are everyday people, but they're not everyday people, if you know what I mean. A lot of them are highly educated. Newspapers and magazines has become now a novelty product for the elite, the educated, the upper middle class. Which that's not what it should be. It should actually be an institution and a resource for everybody, especially the most marginalized amongst us to have access to media. But the industry is changing, and this is a business. And my radical idea has been that we should fund journalism like a public resource. That there would actually be more accountability on fact finding and truth if we actually treat the industry like a nonprofit subsidiary or something, an outside agency that was supposed to create information, and that there would be a guaranteed budget to fund it, and it would be expected to have certain diversity metrics and quotas, and people could produce that news and be able to have the budget to do so, like the way we do the police department. What if we treated the media industry in our cities, these information huddles, as like the police department without the abuse and slaughter of people, but like the way that they could just determine where the money goes, and that they would be creative with it and create things like we do arts departments and things. Like, what if we just created a news department, like a city agency that produced like nonpartisan journalism, and like they served as watchdog for the city, like the way that we have a human resources center or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a big idea, but like there's ways that we can save journalism. There's various ways we can do it. There's tons of ideas. Talk to millennials. Talk to Gen Zers. Good God, because boomers are going to kill the industry. Many of them are. Not all of them, but I don't have to say that because they already are killing the industry. It's them the ones who's making these decisions. Just keep it at 100. They are. They're making decisions. Crawling up under big billionaires to try to save these publications and publishers. My God, advertising market is soft. That's why you see Facebook cutting people, because this digital advertising hasn't been the same since the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, the trends were showing a downward spin. Like the rise, the idea that people could get revenue or see revenue generation based off of these digital ads, it just has not been stacking. Just saying. Speaking of changes, so the rumors are true about my girl Gayle King, one of my faves. Gayle King, y'all, it's happening. Her and Charles Barkley are having a new show on CNN. It's called King Charles. They're going to CNN. CNN wants a rebound. The rumors are true. They are going to do it. And it won't be political, is what I'm hearing. The show is not going to be political. They confirmed this weekend that it's going to be a, quote, good conversation without tearing other people down. That sounds like a boring show. No. Let me not be shady. But like, come on, really? So apparently, in this recent interview, the CEO of CNN, Charles Litt, he said that the show will be an exciting new way we deliver culturally relevant programming and unique perspectives to our audience from two incredibly dynamic personalities. We are excited that they are both able to join us in addition to their current respective roles, with Gayle continuing to anchor CBS Mornings. Yes! So Gayle is not leaving CBS Mornings, because I was about to say, is this Gayle pivoting to CNN? Gayle is pulling on Oprah like her bestie. She said, I could do two things at the same time. Because I remember Oprah had a moment with 60 Minutes, and I don't even know what happened there, but Oprah was doing her thing on 60 Minutes, and then that kind of just disappeared for a minute, where there was a moment, and she had some really great shows and some programming, but she quit in 2019. She left her reporting gig there because she was told, I have too much emotion in my name. That's what she's claiming. She was claiming that she left her reporting gig at 60 Minutes because, among other reasons, but because she said, I have too much emotion in my name. She revealed that she removed herself from the program when she was only there from 2017 to 2019 as a special contributor. She did 5 segments on the news program, which was in 2018. But she basically said that she going to the whole segment, was going to be working, said she was going to be working with Apple, and that it didn't mean that she would never do something, but she would probably be taking all of her energies and putting them into whatever she wanted to do at Apple, is kind of what she said of that partnership of those media conglomerates. But she said it was an interesting experience for herself. She enjoyed working with the team. She said she's probably going to work with some of the freelance people on her Apple stuff, but it was not the best format for her, 60 Minutes, she said. She said that, she remembers how she would have to practice saying her name and have to be told that she had too much emotion in her name. She said she would do 7 takes on just her name because it was too emotional. And she would go, quote, is it too much emotion in the Oprah part or the Winfrey part? She had a deja vu moment because she said, I've actually lived through this once before when I covered a story as a young reporter where the family had lost their home and my boss told me that I reported with too much emotion. I had too much emotion in the story. And she said, I thought, okay, so you're not supposed to be involved in the story? I get that. You're a journalist. But the same thing is true even with a read. They would say, all right, you need to flatten out your voice. There's too much emotion in your voice. So I was working on pulling myself down and flattening out my personality, which for me is actually not such a good thing. Woo! So Oprah left CBS. Not CBS, 60 Minutes on CBS. But Gayle has stuck with CBS Mornings, which was dope. And she's going to do this show. I don't know what I think about this show. I don't know. King Charles. First of all, Charles Barkley is... I don't know if that's the best pick. I don't know if I'm like, what would Don Lemon and Gayle King look like together on the show? Maybe, I guess they want to go something very different, but they've been having a hard time with ratings. Gayle King is 68. Charles Barkley is, I think he's around her age. But he is 60, around her age. She's 60, she's 68. I guess they're experimenting. My whole thing with CNN, as somebody who's been on CNN, I know the direction feels like it's going more conservative. I just feel like they should just go in a more youthful direction. Let them have their show, okay? King Charles, the show needs to happen. But I'm just wondering what would it look like if they just said, okay, we'll let them have their show, but let's get somebody in their 30s. 20s is too early, I would imagine, but someone in their 30s, early 40s. I just, spice it up. I don't know. But, that's my idea. So, we'll see. And then last but not least, before I get into some more local tea, Jeff Shell from NBC Universal, the president and CEO, on Sunday resigned because he was having an improper relationship with an employee. And he's married. And he clarified it was a female employee, a woman. And he stepped down. I don't know what to say. I'm just like, so just in one moment, the NBC Universal CEO just steps down. So now the person who is going to be pushing and doing the work apparently is going to be the current Comcast CEO, I believe. I think the Comcast CEO is now going to be stepping into place. But there's some tea. So basically, Jeff Shell, he's the CEO of NBC Universal. He stepped down because Comcast said the company's owner said he was leaving after an investigation to quote unquote an inappropriate relationship with a woman in the company. That's how they framed it. They said that Comcast chief executive Brian Roberts said that Mr. Shell's senior team would report to Michael Canavan, which is Comcast's president, putting Mr. Canavan in effective control of NBC Universal. This is messy because Comcast Universal, NBC Universal, Comcast Corporation, they've been in this joint partnership. They own NBC Universal. Now there is going to be Comcast is going to even take even further power. And this is a lot because it's New York and Hollywood is going through it. He commanded Comcast's sprawling, entertainment empire. I mean, his departure is a lot because the transition from traditional TV and cable businesses to a future of streaming video, broadcast internet, wireless services, his departure is going to change a lot. I don't know how the stock is going to be involved. I don't know, but it is a lot. And so Mr. Roberts even furthermore said, Brian Roberts said, quote, "We are disappointed to share this news with you. We built this company on a culture of integrity. Nothing is more important than how we treat each other." Mr. Shell also added in his statement that he released on Sunday, quote, "I'm truly sorry I let my Comcast and NBC Universal colleagues down. They're the most talented people in the business, and the opportunity to work with them the last 19 years has been a privilege." He's 57 years old. Mr. Canavan, I'm sorry, Mr. Shell is 57 years old. Mr. Canavan is 57, according to the New York Times. So both of these people are 57 years old. The tea is hot. The tea is hot. I didn't see that coming on my bingo card. But all I will say as I move on is just stop fucking your employees. That's just, I don't know how else I can say it. Because I probably imagine that room, they were saying different things. Stop fucking your employees. Don't fuck people you work with. Respect your marriage. Respect your agreements and understandings. Don't shit where you eat. Don't sleep with nobody you work with. Never did it. Never did. I didn't even want to do it when I was in college. I didn't even want to do it in college until like the end of my well, listen. No. I never had to do it. Because I came into a relationship going into the journalism industry. So I've already had one man the entire time. But in my college years, I typically liked guys that did not go to Penn. I dated a couple of guys at Penn, but not too many. Most of the people I dated or had experiences with were outside of my college. Because I just never wanted to deal with the gossip and the whispers of the experience of that. Like, I just remember when I was at Penn, there were people out that were, classmates of mine who their whole relationship would just be blasted all over campus. Who they hooked up with at one event, who they did. I just never wanted to have myself personally in those interwebs and in that. I've had some experiences with a few, but it wasn't anything. Most of them were even out because that was interesting. But I say all that to say that in my professional space, I've always learned just from family and people around me, it just never works. Don't sleep with somebody you're working with. It's just don't. Which is going to bring me back to something that happened on Abbott Elementary, but we'll get there in a minute. But yeah, I cannot. That man is 57. He's white. He rich. He going to be all right. Next. All right. Fashion district. So a lot of you guys asked me what I thought about this fashion district curfew. The policies that minors will not be able to go into the shopping outlets at 2 p.m. without an adult over the age of 23. This curfew is stupid. I get it. The kids are bad. People want to talk to their parents and parents need to step up. Where are the parents? Okay, fine, whatever. My whole thing is, let me throw some shade because I got to throw some shade. Nobody goes to the fashion district except for the kids. Okay? I don't go there like that. A couple of people might stop by and buy a shoe from Nike or something. But no one goes there like that. The only people that really go to fashion district, is kids. Most people under the age of 23. I don't know any grown-ass adults that are going there. Unless they're going to AMC on a movie night. I don't know any grown-ass adults that's like, I got to go to fashion district to get some shoes. Most of the stores that are there, you can get the clothes online. You don't have to actually go there and get them in person. Second of all, I don't find the place that amuses. A big bunch of nothing. And these developers made a big old fuss and acted like, oh my God, we're going to save Center City and we're going to bring this fashion district. And that shit ain't got shit. Which is why I'm also just not crazy about the 76ers arena, because I'm just like, these white multi-billionaires have fucked up the city left and right when it comes to this. They keep changing it up. One moment the fashion district, now they don't want the fashion district but remember they sold us on the fashion district all these things we were going to get. Remember there was supposed to be like a Disney theme park thing. Go look this shit up. Y'all forget, every time there's like major developments, they make a bunch of promises to hook people in, and then when the shit comes, it never hits the way it's supposed to be. So there was supposed to be a Disney theme park entertained or some type of theme park thing that was supposed to be a part of this fashion district. That didn't happen. I remember hearing at one point in time, like high-end stores like Gucci was going to be there. Then that didn't happen. They don't know what they want to be, okay? They could have just turned this into an upper scale, KOP. King of Prussia would have been nice. They could have brought King of Prussia, put a King of Prussia type of, stores there, livened it up, put some great restaurants in there. Is there any good restaurants in the fashion district? I forgot. City Winery's connected. Ooh. That's it. City Winery. I can't think of any vastly great restaurants that are there. I mean, everything there is just kind of boring and dry. They'll put a couple of temporary things there and then they'll just flip it out. It's just not a good look. I don't know. I'm not impressed. But this curfew is stupid. I think the curfew is going to be a joke. No one's going to abide by it. No one's going to care. It's just not going to happen. That's just my take. I don't see this happening. So yeah. I'm thinking about some other stuff that's happening. So mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm. Wow. Now I'm looking at this before I prep myself. So one of the things that have come up, and this is what I'm ready to talk about now as I get into this, and I want to start this off. We're going to talk about that PABJ mayoral candidates form, and I gotta talk about it. I haven't been able to really talk about it because I saved myself for this podcast, and also because it's just been so many things going on. But I just want to say that doing this was one of the most validating one of the most personal victories of my career thus far. And it's not even about the actual thing itself, because writing a book, getting my master's degree, starting my own business, those are the big highlights of my career. Interviewing Oprah, big moments. But this was a personal victory because I hadn't ever really talked about what happened 4 years ago. I wanted to wait because I wanted this to happen first. And now that this has happened, I can now, I don't know if the word is closure, but I can be able to finally have a full circle. And there's a lot of things in my life that I have waited for things to reveal itself to finally put it in a full circle perspective. Because if I didn't, then it's like, you just gotta let stuff play out a certain kind of way, So with this PABJ mayoral candidates form, okay, let me back up. In 2019, I'm gonna name the name. I'm gonna name the name on this podcast. I have never named the name out loud, even though people have put two and two together quickly because they remember the forum, they remember the situation. But I'll just say it. In 2019, around this time, 4 years ago, I was invited to NBC 10 to be a part of what would be the only televised mayoral debate. It was between Mayor Jim Kenney, State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams, and former City Controller Alan Bukovitz. And I was invited to that debate. It was at the Comcast Technology Center, um, in the Ralph Forum. They had just gotten that space, and it was the Ralph Roberts Forum, and it was really nice, nice view, nice everything. And I was told that if I attended this event, they wanted me to attend the event because I would be a part of this special they were planning to do on the following weekend. The debate was on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was on a Thursday evening or earlier that week, but it was on a Thursday evening, I believe. And I was there. I attended the event. A couple of people from media, from the community was invited. It was a very intimate space to be there. And basically, I was there to observe and to see the debate. And then the plan was for me to go on air that weekend and share my thoughts about the performance of the candidates. And I believe it was supposed to be myself and Conrad Brenner from the Streets Department. Conrad Brenner, I believe, also was a part of this situation. So it was supposed to be me and Conrad Brenner, and we were going to go on NBC 10 and share our thoughts about the debate and our reactions and whatnot. That's what I remember very well. So I attended that debate. I listened. I was there. Well, what happened was, and some of you all been wanting to understand, how did this gift happen? So the behind the scenes is that when they told us that we got there, we had to turn off our cell phones. So I listened. I don't play with the cell phones. I turned off my cell phone. I followed directions. While I was seated there, I was seated on like the third or fourth row with the families of the candidates. So I remember Cherie Williams, who is State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams' wife. She was sitting, I think, on the same row as me and his mother. And we were all like sitting on one side. And it was no confusion. Like, I personally at that time supported Anthony Hardy Williams. I voted for Anthony Hardy Williams for mayor both times, in 2015 and 2019. I never voted for Kenny in the primary because I just never trusted Kenny. As you all can see, I was right about that. But I was not a Kenny fan at all. But I went to see it. And I was really hoping that Williams would be elected, or I thought there could be a shot, right? So during the debate, Kenny had just said a couple of things that just was like, what? And I remember he was getting really red in the face. And I remember just some of his responses had me like, I can't believe this. But they were dueling it. That was a real duel. I mean, Buckovitz, Williams, Kenny, they were having some moments on that debate. And I think people should go back and watch it. But because some of the things that was said during that debate should have told us a lot about who Kenny was and what Kenny was going to do. And sometimes we ignore these things. But like, I was just like, in studying, hosting, and moderating the recent PABJ forum I did, I went back and looked at some of these debates between Hillary and Trump back in 2016. And Hillary was saying some things about Trump that literally came to light. It was almost like everything. I mean, the Russian stuff, the stuff about, women's rights at the Supreme Court choices. I mean, she literally knew what Trump was going to do if he got elected. And he did them. And people just did not think it could get any worse, but it really did under his leadership. So, anywho, it was just a moment. And so I had facial reactions. Look, I'm black, I'm gay. If I see something that's wild, I don't know. I listen, my face talk, okay, sometimes. I don't even have to open my mouth. I have just, and part of my facial expressions is driven by the fact that when I was younger, when I was in high school and middle school, I was a trained actor. I did a lot of theater arts. I did professional acting. I did plays that were not in school. I did off-campus plays and productions. I did commercials, like local commercials. I did a lot of thespian competitions. Like, I was trained to be an actor and a public speaker. So when people say, where did I get this in me? It was very young, actually. I was very much so trained. And so I learned how to emote. I know how to cry on cue. Don't ask me to do it because I'm not going to do it for you unless there's a stage. But I learned how to cry on cue. I learned a little bit how to dance and sing. I can sing, but more so show tune singing, not really like R&B singing, but I learned how to dance. I did jazz ballet when I was in middle school. I did a lot of performing arts. That was my thing. So by default, that never leaves you. Like, even if you don't do acting full time or you don't do whatever, if you've been classically trained in that type of way, it never leaves you. It manifests in the way that you talk, the cadence of your voice acting, in your body language, your facial expressions. But people can always see that thing, and I just have it. I think I can't get it out of me. It's gonna manifest. And I also encourage a lot of kids, if people out there who have kids, I just always tell people, put your kid in theater arts or something in the arts at least, because it does help you with personal skills, social skills, emotional skills. It teaches you how to read better. It teaches you different type of cues, social cues, emotive cues. It helps you express feelings. It helps you emote and understand people better. It educates you about cultures and worlds you've never been into. Look at me sound like a spokesperson for the arts. No, but seriously, like doing theater arts and like doing plays and doing these things taught me about cultures and worlds I never knew. I learned how to research about different types of people. I learned how to do voice acting. I'm actually going to do some voice acting tonight. Well, today, or with this podcast, I'm going to mimic some of the voices of the candidates. And let's see how good I do. But you know, it's just a really fun thing. I encourage people to do it. Like if you have kids or younger siblings or people, get them into theater arts. That was one thing I did with my younger brother. So there's a younger brother and the baby brother. The baby brother just turned 13. The younger brother just turned 20 last month. But the younger brother in high school did theater arts just to get out of his shell. He's a little, GQy, but he is, he can talk. And I think that helps. But anywho, I got facial expressions. I just cannot contain myself. I do keep a poker face. And if you watch the debate this year, the Floridian slip, if you notice my facial, I did keep poker face, but that requires me to actually have to hold my tongue in my mouth. I have to literally like kind of softly bite my tongue. And if I hold my tongue in my mouth, then my lips are pursed and there's no expression. I had to literally make sure I didn't do it this time around. But the eyes, eyes are going to be the eyes, okay? But I worked as hard as I could. I'm proud of myself. But anywho, I go on this, I sit in the audience. Kenny is just bombing this debate. He was just horrible. And my facial expression was like, damn, oh my goodness, clutching my pearls. Well, the NBC 10 camera was rolling. And for whatever reason, they did not, the camera or something, there was a technical difficulty with the camera apparently. I find this out later, by the way. But the camera did not move. They couldn't get the camera to move in place. And so it stuck still. And apparently nobody could go over and move the camera or make it adjust. So it stayed completely still, capturing one angle. And the whole time, that angle was capturing all of my facial expressions and my reactions in real time. And so people who was watching this debate across the city, thousands of people, was seeing my facial expressions on live television. I had no clue what the fuck was going on because my phone was off. One of the execs there, which I will not name him, he is no longer there at NBC 10. He is black. I will share that. He was a black man, and this is why part of the story will get disappointing, but he's no longer at NBC 10. He still is in media, but he does not live in Philadelphia anymore. He looks at me at one point and says, check your phone. And I'm looking at him like, sir, my phone not on. I don't play them games. He's like, look at your phone. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm looking like I'm not throwing away my shot like Hamilton, even though I hate that musical. But no, I was not throwing away my shot. I was like, if I look at my phone, I'm out of here. I don't know if my ringtone off or what. I don't know what was going on. I wouldn't look at my phone because I was like, are you crazy? I'm watching this debate. So then he couldn't say anything. I don't know what was going on. I think he started telling me like my face or something. I don't know. I couldn't read what he was saying. But at this point, the show was about to be over anyway. So I finally turned on my phone. And I was an overnight success. Well, parentheses, success. People was just all over the internet being like, oh my God, your face was wow. Oh my God, your face was how I was feeling. And there was a GIF that came out. And that GIF has been around for 4 years. And every time I show it and y'all see it, y'all just be laughing. I didn't make the meet. Somebody sent it to. I forgot who actually sent it to me, but it was just trending. It was all on Twitter during the debate, and people were tagging me in the tweets. And I shared the reactions that night because I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, okay, well, people thought I was funny. It's no big deal. It's a moment. Shit happens, right? It's lit. But at the end of the day, everybody went on to talk about the Mayoral Forum. I wrote about it. I moved on. Like, I was a journalist. I did my thing. The next morning, I got a phone call from a person who's working at NBC 10. They're no longer working there anymore. So let me be clear. This person tells me that the execs are angry. They're heated. The execs at NBC 10 are hot as hell about this situation. And I'm like, why? They said they had got a phone call. Will not tell y'all on this podcast who made the phone call. But let's just say the powers that be were really upset. And there were phone calls made to the publication that I write for, Philly Mag. Somebody at that time contacted them. There were, they cut me from the NBC segment. That I can confirm. They cut me. They said I was not coming on that week to tape. They took me off. There was speculation and even suggested that I was banned from the Comcast Technology Center, that was on this ban list. And if I tried to walk in, they was going to restrict my access. That was what I was told. And that they wanted me to make an apology. And I said, fuck no. True story. I said, fuck no. I said, no, I'm not going to apologize because what am I apologizing for? I didn't do anything intentionally harmful. I wasn't made aware that the cameras, like as somebody who I interned at NBC 10. So let me back up and just say this. I know cameras. And if a producer, if somebody is running cameras, if you are in a shot or something, they know how to zoom in. They know how to move the camera. They know how to do those things to move from distraction. So what it was telling me was that I was taking the fault because their technical crew at that time did not have their shit together. But I'm taking the fall over something innocuous as facial expressions. That becomes this big scandal. Well, it made it a scandal. And what was ugly is that I was the vice president of print for the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. And we were in talks at the time to have an event at that Comcast Technology Center. And there was a Black woman who still works there that is in that Comcast Technology Center. She runs some programming. I ain't gonna say her name, but she knows exactly who she is. And she was not executive. Let me make sure I make it clear. Her position was not executive. But she is someone that's in this professional scene. And she worked with those centers to do programming, campus programming. I'll get more descriptive because some people might know exactly who I'm talking about. And I'm probably talking about this person but this person that, who I had known a little bit at that time, but behind closed doors, basically followed demands, did not give me the heads up that there was going to be cutting any deals for us. They shut everything down, communication, conversation. One of my friends who was working at NBC 10 at the time, who was an assignment editor, was basically getting the brunt of blame to make me apologize. And I refused to apologize and simply said, what am I apologizing for? I had to lean on a good friend of mine named Taib Smith. I'm going to say his name because he's a real one. And somebody else, I won't say their name because they don't want their name out there. But I remember I called them and said to them, like, this is happening to me. And they made the proper calls. And let's just say some of that stuff backed down. But it was tough at that time because something so innocent, something so natural was being turned into something more than what I felt like was necessary. And I didn't understand why. But that's how racism works. And the sad part was that a lot of the people that was involved in trying to blacklist me and blackball me, I'm not going to say cancel because like the girl is never going to be canceled, but like the fact that they were trying to do this to me based off of this, it was very telling. And some of those people to this day, I will not talk to for anything. A lot of the people involved in the situation has relocated. They're not in Philadelphia anymore. They just couldn't take, I guess, the Philly heat. But they left. They're off to doing other things. Some of them have retired. Some of them have relocated, changed jobs. But some of them are still around. Only a few. Just really this one woman who's involved still. But like most of those people have left. But it's just something to be said for the fact that one moment they were at that time, how old was I? I think I was 27 years old. I just think about just how ugly folks have been in this industry to me in certain aspects, and how I'm 31, and I mean, yes, I'm much older, but the shit I dealt with in my 20s from grown ass people in this business that should be way more kinder, give way more grace. The way they have done me, some people have done me, if y'all only knew. Woo, y'all would listen. That's why they can't take me now. I ain't gonna hold you. Because there was so many people that gave me the door. There are so many people who tried to lock me out. There were so many people who tried to blacklist me and blackball me and just stop me just because of how unapologetically black and queer and young I was, because of how gifted I was. And in spite of all of the bullshit, it was people like you listening to this podcast and reading the articles and following me on social media that fought to keep me where I'm at today. And I don't ever for 5 seconds take that shit for granted, because it is so many days where I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a mess. But I'm never dismayed or broken, because I'm thinking to myself, the fact that I'm even able to be in the position I am now to make these decisions. I get stronger as I get older. I get better with time. I age like wine, which is better. The fact that I'm able to do that keeps me reminding me that it's better. It's so much better now, and even going to be better later, because I have overcame so much of the early shit. Because see, in this business, in this industry, and I tell so many young people who are trying to get in this business that the early years are just so fucking brutal, because you're dealing with a lot of nasty, bitter ass ageist people. You're dealing with homophobes. You're dealing with colorists. You're dealing with people who are just so depressed and bitter about their career that they don't want to see you have joy. They've given up on the industry. They've given up on themselves, and they don't know how to show up for you because they stopped showing up for themselves. And that goes for various industries, but you can see some people who've been broken and traumatized in this profession that don't know how to inspire and instill wisdom and mentor younger people. And it's even worse in our community around Black and brown circles, because when you're trying to look for a mentor, when you're trying to look for, somebody to just give you some hope or just give you some inspiration, you can't find it in the spaces that they've had to overcome. They can't even be an inspiration to you, because half the time the way they got in wasn't the way you were trying to get in. Because if you're trying to get in with dignity and keep your clothes on, they can't respect that, because that's not how they got in. And so when you show up with degrees and education and experience and credibility and confidence, they're threatened by that. I know I said a word, and you can pass the offering, okay? Cash App, $, Ernest Owens on Cash App. I'm joking, but it is my Cash App. I'm joking though. But no, really, I'm just keeping it 100, because I've seen so much of the shit. I've seen so much of it. And now that I'm in a position where I feel like I can definitely bring people under my wing and give advice and make calls and support folks in a good way, I just am hoping that as many people as I know who are young, who are Black, who are queer, who are female or woman, whoever, right? If I can be able to just be a reliable resource in the best way I can with the capacity of time I have just to make sure that folks do not have to go through some of the shit I went through, I'm going to do it. Because life happens and goes by fast, where you can be 4 years ago in a seat about to be blacklisted, led by folks at a major television station in your city, to then turning around 4 years later and being able to host a mayoral debate of your own at another TV station. Plays Karma by Taylor Swift. Because that's really what it was. It's karma. You know, CBS 3, Philadelphia Community Access Media, they took on being on media partners. WRD Radio broadcasted the forum. We got radio, we got TV, we got public access. We got the big dogs. I got a funding grant by the Linfest Institute from their Every Voice, Every Vote grant that went out to organizations like the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists to put on the forum. They supported it. I got funding. I got a space. We had it at the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia. They provided us that space. We had a packed museum. And we was able to get that much support. And I got to host it, produce it. I was able to pick the people who I wanted as the panelists. I got to really craft my questions, have a voice, and got to be myself. And that would have happened. That would have not happened had it not been for listeners like you. So thank you. And I say that sincerely. I really am grateful for my family, my friends. Not me crying on a podcast. We don't cry on this podcast. But it's just, I'm not mad about anything. I'm in a position in my life where I'm not angry anymore. I'm not mad about anything. If anything, I just feel a sense of joy in the vindication and the ability to look and see these things change. I don't hold any begrudgement with the people who did what they did. Now, I don't fuck with them, but I'm not hating on them either. You can not fuck with a person and still wish them well. Hopefully they don't fuck with another young person, like they did with me. But that's the beauty of it, right? Is the persistence and the resilience. And when you're in that position, I don't think a lot of people understand, yes, I have a lot of great things that's been going on in my life, but none of this shit was easy. And it's so funny how people want to just assume they know your journey and know your life because they see all the nice things and they don't think that behind closed doors, you have to do a lot of things to get them. And it's even harder when you want to do it with integrity, when you don't want to, compromise yourself to get them, right? It's even more, right? And so if anything, I just want people to know that I have been consistent in my life, taking the right stances, waiting for that justice that does come. It does come. It may come in a month, a week, a day, 4 years, sometimes 10 years. Woo, don't want to talk about that. I had a situation, I was like, that shit came, I got that last word 10 years later. But sometimes it comes in different shapes and forms. But at the end of the day, the comfort in yourself relies in you knowing the truth and knowing yourself and knowing that it's going to always work out. It's going to always happen the way it's supposed to happen. And you don't have to press pause on your life to wait for that closure. You keep going. The closure will come if it needs to come, how it's going to come, but you just keep going. And I believe the faster you arrive at that closure will come in how great you blossom. That's the guiding force of how I've lived my life for the past several years. Is that I've just have seen things come. And I'm not asking for it. I don't beg for it. I don't pray over it. I just kind of just do me. And through my own evolution and my own personal growth, stuff just starts to be more clear. Things become you just start to look and be like, interesting. And And that's why this forum and the post I made on social, that's the emotion there. That's what that was about. Trust the process. Trust the process. Trust the process. That's what I'll say. Trust your process. Stick with your truth. Make the tough decisions that work for you. Do what you got to do because it's your life. As someone close to me say, make a pimp decision. And I've made a lot of pimp decisions in my life, and it's been worthy. And it's so funny because these last 3 months, this year has been full of these great highs and no lows, to be honest. Moments of distraction, but then something else happens and I'm like, okay, I'm over that. Let's move forward. And that's what this has been. So I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. I'm just internally grateful for the ongoing love and support. So back into this mess. This Candace Forum, okay? Let me just start off by saying that this was a great Candace Forum because we did something different here. As many of you have already seen, or many of you are about to see when this airs on CBS 3, is that we didn't do a bunch of questions. Off the jump, the team, the panelists, the producers at CBS, all of us, when we sat down and we talked about this forum, one of the things I was big on, I really took the lead. I didn't want a lot of questions, right? Because I felt like if you have a small amount of time, you want people to have a discussion. So this was about giving people time to really answer these questions fully, okay? No gotcha questions, no 1-2 sentence. I really wanted the candidates to be able to fully express themselves on the topics that we had worked on in our questions. So it was very important to me to make sure that we had the time for people to all get a chance to talk. And as the moderator, what was important to me was that off the jump, I wanted everyone to get a chance to really talk. Because when I looked at these previous debates, I was studying how long certain candidates was talking. Like Helen Gim, listen, child, she likes to talk. And then, listen, she's passionate, so there's no shade there. But she likes to talk a lot, right? But then you have people like Alan Dom who, he just kind of, give a one word or something. This was about really getting everyone to really get a chance to flesh out their voice and their thoughts. Because what I really wanted was candidates to be able to identify themselves. And I personally believe that this forum was a rare opportunity for voters to be able to finally see all of these candidates in their nuances and their personalities. And so I was really happy that I had folks from out of town and family members and folks from Texas and all around look at it. And I asked them who they thought won or who they thought were good or who they liked. I'll reserve that later and I'll tell you who my mom was thinking about. But I will say just off the jump, a lot of people was feeling the women. It was the women that stood out to them the most compared to the men. Everyone I talked to had their interest on a woman. I'm not going to tell you which women, but they were interested in one of the three women at one point. Some like Sherelle, some like Rebecca, some like Helen. But they were focused on the women. They were not impressed with the men compared to the women across the board. That was something across the board. Everyone I talked to, I asked them how you felt about the debate, how you felt about whatever. And everybody I spoke to named the women or one of the women or two of the women as the standouts. No one really talked about the men in a positive way. Let me say that. Just put it out there. But the personality stood out. The other thing that was big to me was that I didn't want the conversation to be about crime solely. We had one conversation or one question that was focused on public safety and crime, but that was it. After that, we was not going to keep doing 1,000 questions about stop and frisk and arrest and policing. And it's like at some point, because this was a forum on Black issues. And so it's very important to me that we understand that crime and public safety are not the only things that Black people care about. We care about education. We care about housing. We care about closing the racial wealth gap. We care about the economy. We care about opportunity and access, like experience and readiness of candidates. Like we care about a lot of things. And, again, I kept citing that poll by the Black Leadership PAC, which basically said that 42% of black voters right now currently are undecided on who they want to elect for mayor. That's a big deal. We are the undecided people. And I just feel like these forums do not really flesh out the scope enough. So I love that. The other thing that I was big on was there was no buzzers. I was not doing 30-second rapid response questions and shit. All of these, raise your placard, yes or no on a position. I just feel like that's corny. I've watched enough debates where the candidates do that, and it's always the same pattern. And anybody who's watched these forums know this. It is if you raise your placard, if you support stop and frisk. And then you always have like 2 to 3 people that are like, yes, no, easily. And then there's the person that's like, I'm not answering that. I can't take a position on that bullshit. And then the other ones are like waving their hand, halfly, sometimey. They don't know where they want to stand on it. So that was something that really was big to me, was like, I don't want to keep doing the same old sometimey ass, are you going to say no? Are you going to say yes bullshit? So that was big to me as well. So we didn't do that. But what we did was we allowed each panelist to ask a question. And then what I would do is they were directed to 2 different candidates. And then once those 2 candidates finished, then I would study the reactions or the contrasts or any shots that may have been made from the previous 2 candidates about anybody else, and then pass the mic and give other people a chance to respond. And so that was cool, because what was great about it was I was just having that timer. And so in my ear, the producer was in my ear telling me, hey, we got this much time, wrap it up. So it allowed me to be able to know who to pinpoint to, so I can make sure every single candidate got a chance to speak. And so if you watch this debate carefully, this forum, I keep slipping up, because honestly, it was supposed to be a forum and not a debate, but it became a debate. So we're just going to call it a debate right now. But in the conversation, that's why you heard everyone give a voice and give an opinion. That was intentional. And yeah, there was some sparring and some back and forth amongst candidates, as it should be, because it was a conversation, and that was very big to me. So then, we had a conversation, that was the formatting, and people respected it for the most part. But I want to tell you that before this program started, there was some interesting things that took place before the forum aired, and the behind the scenes drama that took place. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I ain't getting into all of it. Some of that I'm going to keep for myself just to think about, but it was interesting. So what I will tell you is that there are some candidates that do not like each other in real time. Like, this isn't just about politics anymore. Some people are feeling some type of way. Like, they are walking out this situation, and I know they're never going to be, there's some people that's just not going to talk to each other after this. Jeff Brown got some issues with some people in this race, and I don't think he is going to like these people. There's going to be, I just can tell that there are some relationships that are going to they're just not going to be. There are some candidates that are more cooler, calm, and collective, and there are some candidates just rat-tat-tat. And I think a lot of that showed during this forum. I will just go by the list, based on performance. There's some things I'll talk about. I want you all to watch it. Some of y'all watch it, but I'll talk about some of it. Almond Brown, I'll start with him in alphabetical order. Almond Brown is, he has a great personal story. I think it resonates with people. He's very good at talking about his life story. I just wish he just would articulate more to voters about his policies. And some of his policies are very, interesting. He wants to ban ski masks, on day one. He wants to, create a special task force for social media to monitor social media, because he believes that a lot of gun violence is stemmed by drama that happens on social media. He's not for stop and frisk, but he does want to bolster the police involvement in things. Uh, um, a lot of style, but the substance needs some work, in my opinion, my observation of his performance at the debate. He knew how to resonate with people in certain ways, but he's 35 years old. He's the youngest candidate running in the race, and I just feel like there's just some. I don't know if he's strengthened his ability to make himself as ready. I don't know if ready is the word. I don't know if he's the most ready on day. I don't think compared to other candidates, he's the most ready on day one. I cannot say that and be intellectually honest. I don't think he's ready on day one. Maybe down the road, maybe things could change, perhaps, but I don't think he is the most ready compared to other candidates in the race. Now on to Jeff Brown's performance. Jeff Brown at the debate, he was definitely in defense mode. He was taking on a lot of heat from Helen, and Helen and him were clashing, and there was times where she said he would sound like the angry man. She accused him of being sexist. She went in. She was giving it to him, and he was going in on her. He went off. He told her, "You don't know nothing about the free market. You know nothing about real estate. You're the most unqualified person here. You have no managerial experience. You're not ready." I mean, he read her to filth, and she clapped back, and there was a lot of heated exchange between them. There was also a moment between Almond Brown and him where he just went there with him as well. And there was just a lot of combativeness. He came at Dom on DEI and his staff, Alan Dom's DEI. He just was ready to throw blows. He didn't come at Rebecca. He didn't come at Sherelle. But everybody else got that work on that stage. And so that was very interesting. I think he's on defense mode because he's got a lot going on right now. The Philadelphia Inquirer did a really big, report on Sunday about his upcoming hearing that his campaigns, his independent expenditure, right? The Better Philadelphia, for Better Philadelphia, this group that's been giving millions of dollars and lots of money towards his campaign. There is allegations. They're being sued by the Philadelphia Board of Ethics. And the results of that Board of Ethics might come, later on, in the year. But apparently there's an alleged deal worked out that there might be a suspension of this independent expenditure from now until May 16th of the primary, which means that only Jeff Brown's actual campaign can support him, but the PAC may not be able to support his campaign right now. It's a lot going on. And I think he's trying. I mean, the role of dark money is serious. In August of last year, he hosted a fundraiser with this PAC, that charged $100,000 per individual. They did not disclose the name of the donors publicly who attended that dinner. And now there's suspicions that the 76ers developers around the arena gave $250,000 to that PAC. There's just a lot of weird things. Now, Jeff Brown is saying he doesn't know who donated to the PAC. But in August of last year, you was at a dinner in a conversation, and apparently he's arguing that he was okay to do that because it was before he announced his candidacy. The problem is that there was an opinion made around 2008 that even if you are not officially declared your candidacy, if you are directly working with the PAC close to such a candidacy, then that is still, colluding with them, which is against Philadelphia campaign laws. So there's a lot going on here, and there's going to be some serious potential consequences that impacts the race. But he has to speak to that. And he's just looks like it appears that he's falling short to some people. So then you have Alan Dom. Alan Dom, I must say, just the way that he behaved at the Candace Forum, my interactions with him, I don't have a personal hatred for him. I don't hate the man. I don't really have a problem with the guy. I mean, I think it is something to be said for a lot of big money going into a race. Anytime somebody is spending money like that, to support their campaign. The perception of trying to buy your way to a mayor's seat is a legitimate concern. But I just think out of behavior and temperament, I think Alan Dom's temperament is pretty solid. I don't think, I just, he just was like, look, I'm answering questions. I don't got time for the smoke. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I don't got time to be doing any of the bullshit. He just gives no nonsense. And, there are people, of course, that do feel a certain type of way about him, having a large real estate portfolio. I mean, he is being called. He does not call it himself this, but others call him the condo king, and they reference his big real estate portfolio and the money he's made. Now, he likes to pride himself on being self-made. He talks about how he comes from humble beginnings, and he kind of worked his way up, and he's always given back and supported people. He's a philanthropist. He's given money. He's involved in public service. One could argue and ask, hey, with all this money influence, why you want to be the mayor? I mean, I don't know. It's a question that lingers. Like, do you have to be the mayor? In a race where you can elect the fourth person of color or elect the first ever woman to be the 100th mayor, why does the old, rich, straight white guy want to be the mayor again? Like, you could pass it to something. You could support another issue. That's the lingering question. But at the same time, could the guy do the job? I think so. I think Dom could be a mayor. I have no doubt that Alan Dom could be the mayor of Philadelphia. I think there are some people that would argue he's a safer choice if everything seems to be rocky elsewhere. That's not necessarily my opinion. I'm just telling you that this is what I hear from insiders and politicos. So, that's him. Now you have Helen Gim. Helen Gim, I mean, her performance debate, she had a lot of passion. I think she had a lot of strong moments. I think she really just, she cares. And, there's no denial that she really wants to be the mayor of Philadelphia. I think the problem that came up throughout the debate was that she didn't seem like she was prepared. Well, she was going after certain people or clapping back, per se, more so with Jeff Brown. It seemed like she was taken aback by people coming to her with smoke. If you're going to throw it, you got to be able to catch it. That's my mindset on the situation. I just felt like there were times where she was kind of surprised that people were like throwing shots, but I'm just kind of like, you should be prepared for this. She did the best she could. She definitely was a fighter in most of the conversations, and for good and for bad, but I did think that sometimes she came off as preachy. And that's just more so because of just the way that she spoke about communities. And as a Black person listening to her, there were moments where I did get the preachy white savior. And I know she's not white, but that savior complex in the way that she was talking. And there's got to be a line of, okay, I'm telling people solutions and I'm using rhetoric that comes off as I'm saving everyone from there's just that borderline balance. And I think sometimes she was heavy-handed on a lot of the savioral transformer, I'm gonna thing, that it kind of felt like just expound a little bit more. And I think there's questions about budget, and I'm not saying her budget is imaginary, because there's other candidates like Cheryl Parker who calls it imaginary. I wouldn't go far to say that her budget is imaginary. But what I will say is that I just think sometimes she takes these bold positions, which are strong and very viable. But the problem is she doesn't really break down how she plans to realistically execute them, because she's so caught up in these strong rhetorical talking points that a lot of the articulation and the implementation seems to be lacking in certain areas. And that came across with heavy hitters. So then Cheryl Parker. Cheryl was strong too. I think a lot of people I spoke to about the forum said that Cheryl definitely stood out. She definitely was passionate as well. She also did something that Gim wasn't really doing really well, which was that Cheryl just really got really wonky in a stylish way. And I don't mean wonky as an insult, more so that she got really technical about the interweavings of city, council, and government. And she does have the intergovernmental experience. So she was in Harrisburg. She was in in city council, and she does have this long time governmental experience. But that being said, that opens up the door for people to ask the question of, well, if you've been in these systems for so long, how come you haven't produced as much as people, the change that people are wanting right now? So people can see her as part of the problem while at the same time acknowledging her level of experience. So there's a dance there. The other thing that was interesting was that there's a lot of her that she comes off and tries to appear as a bright perspective, a new day in Philly. But a lot of what she has backing her is a lot of establishment, older people that's in these conclaves of union and labor in these places. So I don't know how she can maneuver that. And also some of her policies that do pander to policing oftentimes puts too much power in police hands without giving the carrot to community. So, for example, I still do not get the math on, she wants to increase 300, she wants to have 300 more officers in the police force, even though we know there's a vacancy of about 1,000. Now, Helen Gim brought this up, thought it was a fair point to make. Sherelle keeps talking about how these 300 officers are going to be different because they're going to be on bikes and they're going to be patrolling in the streets. And it's giving the, these are magic beans. These are magical police officers. These aren't just any types of beans. These are magical beans. And I just kind of like, but isn't the cops that we already have supposed to already be doing that? We got a nearly $1 billion police budget now. And you're telling me that the officers we already have you can't get them people to go on the bicycles and be out there? I just find it odd that she won't address that gap. So you're going to get them up to speed with recruitment to get them up to the 1,000 worth of cops that are there. Then you want to add another 300 more to that number? Why not just get us up to speed on the budget we already have without increasing taxpayers' dollars or taking money out of another department? Because if the pie doesn't increase, it has to reallocate in the city budget. So that 300 cops you're trying to add, which would be millions upon millions of dollars, right? You're going to take that from somewhere to put it there. Where is that money coming from? Parks and Rec? Arts and entertainment, arts and culture? Where is that money coming from? Because the police budget is set already to address the vacancies. The budget's already there for those vacancies. You haven't really articulated a plan to recruit those people to fill that gap. And then you want to add 300 more special magical beings? I just not really feeling that. Not feeling that answer. And then I'm also largely concerned about her responses to using every tool in the police's arsenal to help with policing. That's a little scary to me. I mean, this whole constitutional stop and frisk, not problematic. I just think that she's not articulating it as best as she could. I don't think that you could say you're doing criminal justice reform with this pro-police policy that speaks more about increasing police. I mean, this whole, they're going to be different police. What the fuck does that mean? Because I thought the police we already have was supposed to be different police. Are you saying the ones we currently have aren't doing their job in trash? And if that's the case, then why won't you just address those cops rather than trying to add more? I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of double talking with her in certain cases. My other issue I had is that while Sherelle was very eloquent in throwing shots, and she was throwing them heavy, and when you listen and you watch this forum, you'll see that she has some moments where she just goes in. The problem is she had a hard time putting a name on it. And so there was times where she would make references and I was getting tripped up. I was like, wait, are you talking about Rebecca Reinhardt? Oh, no, you talking about Helen Gim. Okay, well, you was actually talking about both of them because she said something along the lines of, she's not doing speeches and audits. Well, she was clearly talking about the speeches in reference to Helen and the audits were in reference to Rebecca. But she tried to act like, you're throwing a lot of shots. And if you're going to do it, put a name on it. And she was struggling to name specifically people she was talking about. I found that to be super passive aggressive. And I felt like I could appreciate Helen Gim when she directed her points. She said, Jeff does not know what he's talking about. Name it. And Jeff, he named it with Helen. He wasn't playing. When he called out Dom, he named Dom. That's what we got to be doing. Amin Brown, he called out Jeff Brown directly and looked at him and confronted him on some issues. You'll see more about that during the forum. But that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you're supposed to, you know, I just think Sherelle's issue is, and why I struggle with her, is that I do think in this race she is the prominent black candidate. I think that in my mind, and I'm just guessing out loud, that she will be the highest vote getting black candidate out of everybody else, out of all the other black candidates running. I think she is the one that's going to get the most votes out of the black candidates. I think she's going to have the most votes as a black candidate. I think she's the strongest black candidate running, based on appeal, based on ward endorsements. I just feel like that's where it's headed for her. But stranger things happen. You can never say that that's a guarantee, but that's what I'm leaning towards right now. And then last but not least, Rebecca Reinhardt. I think with Rebecca, what is becoming clear to me after watching several forums and debates, Rebecca is not really a debate forum type of person. Like, it's just not her niche. And I also think the same with Amon Brown. I think Amon Brown isn't really like a debate forum person. He's a little nervous. He reads off the paper sometimes. But Rebecca, yeah, she can answer questions and she likes to talk, but I think that's not her element, and it comes off. I think there were times where she could have shown a little bit more passion, but she just has this technocrat thing with her. She knows the numbers, she knows the stats, and she knows the reports, and that's strong. And I think some people have been throwing shots about Rebecca being super smart in that regard, and I kind of feel like I am the person that's smart and passionate. I'm the person that got the brain and the heart. Some people just don't know how to do that. And I don't necessarily think that means that they are cold or they're bad. It just means that that's just not the type of head they use. And I don't know necessarily know if that's a good or bad thing for Philly. I know that Philly mayors have had a history of being passionate. But you got people like, Kenny, who just is so introverted and red in the face, and he does cry at times, but Kenny has just kind of lost luster in that way. And so I don't know if we should always go for the most passionate person emotionally if we don't have people with the gravitas to really get down to work and get things done. So that's the struggle, is like, what kind of mayor does Philly want? Do we want a smart, like, brainiac? Or do we want somebody that's passionate? Or could you be both? But it's just going to be interesting to figure out that balance of what kind of person the mayor wants. Because to be honest, I mean, I don't think anyone on that stage can say she's dumb. I don't think anybody can say she doesn't know what she's talking about. I just think that in a race where there's a lot of high energy and passion, some people might view her lack of that kind of charisma as being boring and flat and not good. I'm married to somebody that's kind of like that. He's not flat. Mr. Johnson is not flat, but he is definitely not the bombastic, loud guy like me. He's the yin to my yang. He's the yin to my yang, I would say. He's definitely yin to my yang. And I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think there should be balance. So I don't know. But what I will say, though, outside of that, she did ask good questions. She answered the questions. She tried at points to make points and references. I just think she's got to just, charisma is just important in the Philadelphia race. I mean, if she was running in another city, maybe it'd be a different conversation, but we'll see what will happen. But, I do think overall, people I spoke to appreciated how she wasn't as combative with other candidates. And, she just kind of did her thing and wasn't really trying to get in the riffraff, kind of like Dom. But we all kind of know Dom a lot more. So it's like people have gotten used to Alan Dom being the way he is. But I think with Rebecca, sometimes there is an expectation. Maybe there's gender bias in the fact that people expect with the women to be more expressive than the men. And there could be a gender bias in how she's being read. Like if Rebecca Reinhardt was a man, would that be the same conversation about charisma about her? I wonder. I mean, I feel like it's missing from Dom, but I don't think people hold it against Dom in the same way that they hold it against Rebecca. So it's going to be interesting navigating gender and race and all these different things in the conversation. for sure. So here's my voice reflections of the debate in like a couple seconds, mocking their voices. Almond Brown was like this pretty much. Thank you for the question. As somebody who has been shot my entire life, I really think that I'm ready to be mayor on day one because, I live my lived experience, and that's what brings me there. Jeff Brown. I gotta tell it to you all. Like, I've been working hard as with my ShopRite company and the business, and I'm a business owner with managerial experience. And managerial experience to run a business is very important. Helen Gim, you know nothing about the free market. You know nothing about real estate. You don't know. That was Jeff Brown to me. Alan Dom in a voice. Well, I have to tell it to you. I've been working in business in quite a long time, and running a business is a serious endeavor, and I'm ready to get to work and get people jobs. Helen Gim. You need a mayor that is ready on day one to change and transform the city. I am that person. Elect me for mayor because I'm ready to go back to City Hall to complete something I've done for 30 years. Sherelle Parker. Hello, my name is Sherelle Parker, and I am running to be Philadelphia's next mayor. I have seen and heard what these candidates are talking about, but they don't have the same level of understanding. You see, you have to have a voice when you go into City Hall, and you can't waver on those deals. And then Rebecca Reinhardt. My name is Rebecca Reinhardt, and I am ready to be your next mayor. I have the courage to step up to big issues that are impacting Philadelphians today. And I would like to have your vote because on May 16th, I am ready to take on the big issues that impact Philadelphians. And scene. So that's my interpretation of how I heard them. Look, that's my voice acting. That's how I read them at the debate. That was like the energy. And I tried my hardest. I tried my hardest. But we'll see what happens. But let me tell you some behind the scenes you only gonna hear on this podcast. There were two candidates that tried to show up to the Mayoral Candidates Forum and were told to leave. So Warren Bloom, pulled up to the forum, and just really thought he was just going to walk up in. Now, you already know this event was already at capacity. Reservations technically sold out. We didn't charge actual money for the tickets, but the RSVPs on the Eventbrite was sold out. So I was just kind of like, how are you just going to roll up and think you can just come to the forum? Like, where they do that at? So that happened. But then James DeLeon, Judge James DeLeon, let me tell you something. I am not a fan of his. I am not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of his campaign. I am completely disappointed by the way that his campaign handled his situation with this forum. So back in January, I initially reached out to all of the candidates in the race pretty much to tell them that, hey, as of right now, you're invited to attend this Mayoral Candidates Forum. I gave them information, more so to say, lock it in your calendar. And this is back in early January, just a way to get confirmation and try to keep track. Now, as the race progressed and as things began to take shape, there were candidates who were not invited to come, to the final show. And we made that clear very early before things got, handled. But there were some candidates that, based on information, based on stature, things changed. And so if you did a forum in the beginning, right, you literally had to invite every candidate because no one knew any data. There was no way to track, no one to compare numbers. There was no data you could use to try to shape out who can come to your forum or not. So it was a very different type of debate. A different type of situation. So if you had a forum back in January, which some people did, you literally had to invite everybody because there was no information to confirm who was viable, who was not viable, or nothing. But as the debates begin to progress, it becomes very clear that there are serious candidates based on various things: name recognition, media coverage, individual media coverage, social media analytics, some polling data that you could find, even though there hadn't been independent polls yet. There were situations around campaign finance reporting. Like if you were submitting your forms, you could see how much money a person had in a race. That could also be a factor. But there were several factors that would determine it. So when I chose the 6 candidates that I chose, I didn't choose them because they're my personal favorites. That wasn't the case at all. It was because they had the highest number of campaign finance money. They had the top 6 most amounts. They had, in some cases, they had huge social media presence. They had the biggest social media followings. They had the most individual media coverage about themselves. They had strong name recognition. They just had a lot of things going in their favor that made them the top 6. So we had 3 men and 3 women. Those were the top. And so that's what shaped our forum. So in early April, after I think the press release had came out naming these 6 people, James Leon campaign chairperson, spokesperson, whatnot, had reached out and basically asked about, what's up with this. They said they were told by a television station that was one of the media partners with this, that they had to come to me about this forum and why they weren't invited. And I was explaining it very clearly. I said, listen, they did not hit the criteria for X, Y, and Z. And I laid out what the criteria was and broke it down. And they respectfully received it. And that was it. It was over. Well, they tried to come up and pull up to the forum. I wasn't there, but one of my board members was working the front desk. They were trying to get entry to participate. James Leon was in a whole suit, child. You would have thought that this man had got the green light to show up. He's in a whole suit. He all dressed up. You thinking he about to perform. He thinks he's ready to go. He got his publicist on the phone, acting like threatening that they're going to go to the press about this and that they should be able to speak. I mean, it was just a lot. But they tried to act like they were invited in January, but they failed to show the receipt in which April they were respectfully told that they were no longer invited, and there was a process and there was a rubric, and I broke down what the criteria was, and the campaign people was informed and they knew. So for that person to try to play like they weren't aware that they were not a part of it is intellectually dishonest, and it was messed up. And the fact that this person came and thought they was going to bum rush their way in is even more telling. So it is what it is. And I just think that some of these tactics that these people are doing, I just feel like at the end of the day, we're all going to have reputations and careers off after May 16th. What I'm starting to see with some of the decision making and things that some people are doing right now, they're starting to show people in real time that they cannot let go of the bullshit. And to be honest, the kind of behavior they're doing, no one's going to work with you or want to work with you after this. You're going to most likely lose. Let's just call a spade a spade. I am about 100% certain that James Leon will not be Philadelphia's 100th mayor. I think I can easily say that that's not going to happen. And honestly, I think he knows that's not going to happen. But the way that he has been acting at some of these events and these forums I've been watching, it's just been a turnoff. And his whole demeanor, his attitude, his arrogance that he displayed in this confrontation is disgusting. And the tactics of recording people, not me, but recording someone working at the front desk who was trying to do their job, like all of that behavior is atrocious. And it doesn't make your candidate look good. It doesn't make your team look good. It looks like a hot mess. So, that's that. The aftermath of the forum, because there's a lot of aftermath. The aftermath is that Jeff Brown got a lot of press about how he conducted himself, specifically with Helen Gim. A lot has been said there. Over the weekend, I have been in the conversation because I guess I revealed a bombshell revelation about Helen Gim's support. And to be honest, look, every time I do my job, there's always people who like to push back and, challenge the things I say and what I do. And look, at the end of the day, as a journalist, I do the research and I do a process. And my process allows me the opportunity to really explore everything that's happening. And that's important. It's big, and I think some people, um, it's yeah. Mm-mm-mm. So I'm going to, you know, uh, mm-mm-mm, mm. So what has happened next is interesting. So I looked at the campaign finance reports. I've been reading them like a nerd. I've been reading them, digging into them, really looking, not necessarily looking for blood, but just looking and reading and looking at names, patterns. There's a lot of patterns, and sometimes you see something that you go, that's interesting. Like when I saw, I think it was Richard Vague, who's a big, huge investor and human capitalist or social capitalist or whatever he is. He gave $100,000 to Rebecca Reinhardt's campaign. And that was like, okay, that's a lot of money. Was it her campaign or was it the PAC? I think it was her PAC. But I was like, that's a lot of money. But it was like, okay, that's a standout. I've seen a couple of bankers and organizations throughout the city giving people money, um, and it's been a lot. Um, and there's been a lot of conversations. Um, but this one was a big deal. So I'm going to actually read what I said on my thread, and I'm going to just talk to y'all um, about this. This is very sensitive, but it's important. And so I think a lot of people, there's been feelings and emotions about this. And I think sometimes people have lost sight about what's going on. Um, but I think it's something to be said. So I'm going to read this. So, according to campaign finance reports, Helen Gim's ties to Big Pharma are more detailed than previously reported. John Chu is the former AmerisourceBergen boss of her husband, Brett Flattery, has been fiscally maxing out at most campaign contribution levels since her husband, Flattery, was working there in 2019. Now, for clarity, Flattery, her husband, her current husband, Brett, quietly left that company, AmerisourceBergen, earlier this year. But according to campaign finance reports, it appears that the Gim campaign has been recently hiding John Chu's employment ties to AmerisourceBergen. Here's a breakdown of what's going on for people who want to know. And there's, a lot of people that have been following some of these plans, and mm, child, hold on. Mm-mm-mm. Oh yeah, I'm looking at some of this stuff. So yes, I'm reading this now down here because mm, 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 mm. Because I'm looking at some of the stuff that has happened. Um, mm. Oh wow, I'm I'm looking at something that just came up on my phone. Mm. So there's been people begging her to address the situation around the stuff. So okay, so back to John Chu. So in 2019, when Brett Flatterly was the assistant general counsel for AmerisourceBergen, Chu, who was the company's executive VP and chief legal officer, donated the maximum amount of money during Gim's reelection primary in 2019. That was $3,000. The reason why this is a big deal is because that donation was made at the time that Helen Gim had voted against the bill that would ban pharmaceutical companies like AmerisourceBergen from giving gifts to donors. Now, this was reported in the Philadelphia Inquirer back in 2019 when this all went down. But again, in 2020, Chu continued to give Helen Gim's campaign the maximum amount in campaign contributions. At this point, it was $3,100. Meanwhile, activists and progressives at that year were beginning to call out AmerisourceBergen's role in allegedly fueling the nation's deadly opioid crisis. But he also did it again in 2001. He donated to her campaign maxed out at $3,100. So the campaign benefited from then, but then in 2022, things got interesting. Now let me back up. So let's start from the basics. 2019, he donates. 2020, he donates. 2021, he donates. 2022. So when talks of Helen Gim seriously running for mayor increased, something odd happened in her campaign finance reporting. According to 2022 finance reports, John Chu stops being listed as an employee at AmerisourceBergen. He's listed as not employed, even though it's reported that he's given her a maxed out $18,100 in a single year. Now, this is odd because according to Chu's official LinkedIn page, he says he retired from AmerisourceBergen in December 2022. But the $15,000 amount he gives in June 2022 has him listed as not employed. Now, according to his his LinkedIn, and what is reported, they're saying he's unemployed in June, but he's publicly saying he was no longer working there in December. So that's kind of like, what? That's odd. Now, meanwhile, this was the same year in 2022 that AmerisourceBergen reached a national settlement with state and local governments that forced them to pay $6.1 billion to resolve a ton of opioid-related lawsuits. And this is a major pharmaceutical company, y'all. So just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it does. This year, in 2023, according to the campaign report that was recently filed, John Chu gave Helen Gim another maxed out donation of $6,200. And like I said before, early this year, her husband leaves the company and works for another local law firm. And this is also happening months after the U.S. Justice Department announced that they're suing AmerisourceBergen for allegedly fueling the opioid crisis. So a lot of people might say to themselves, there will be some who might look at this and say, why does this matter? But I would argue that the conversation around campaign finance contributions in this Philly mayoral race is more than just talking about super PACs alone. I personally feel like Helen Gim benefited long after that vote based on these connections to this pharmaceutical company. And people want to say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean that she didn't buy or she wasn't bought out? What it means to me is that it says that, it says a lot. It says that to some extent that, she has been silent on a lot of these issues. And it's just really hard to not see some of that. And it's also that she has talked a lot about having a grassroots campaign. And I'm not saying that there are not elements of her campaign grassroots, but it is something to be said that there is this connection. And there's been a lot of, silence about this. And there's been a lot of of drama. And so, to be clear, in total, based on what I have had, is that Chu, who is now a former Big Pharma exec who worked with Helen Gim's husband, has given her a grand total of $33,500 since she voted against the bill that would have made companies like AmerisourceBergen more accountable. That's just saying a lot. And at the end of the day, I just would like to hear from Helen Gim to talk more about this, you know? And people are saying, people have different thoughts, and they're not some people are arguing that they don't understand how this is happening. It says a lot. People, there are people, I'm reading stuff online, and someone said that, in their opinion, it's just circular political stuff. Well, she gives our opponents shade about their rich friends, but then she meets with billionaires and gets donations from professionals such as her friends, which doesn't mean anything necessarily, but is a bit rich. Some people argue. Some people also turn around and said, well, at the same time, it's the vote she participated in while on council. She didn't recuse herself from voting down a bill that would demand more accountability from Big Pharma while taking donations from Big Pharma and then trying to obfuscate it on campaign finance reports. And I think that's the real thing. It's like, part of me says that what makes it interesting, in my view, is that it just looks like she was trying to hide it. At least according to the campaign finance reports. You don't disclose in this latter year that this money comes from this person, and you don't mention it. Now, in previous campaign finance reports, they do list the person, but that was before I think people was beginning to connect the dots between her husband working for that pharmaceutical company and the connections. They kind of just buried that. But it's been something that's been consistent within her current term on city council. And I just don't know how she wouldn't recuse herself. Now, some people say, well, why is this a big deal? Who gives a fuck? No, it actually means something, because Helen Gim's entire career has been built on this moral compass, right? Her whole appeal is she's the more woke, she's the more, social justice leaning, she's the most progressive. She's all of these things in virtue that's supposed to stand up against corporations and big companies and take down a big guy. And that's her whole appeal. And it just seems like what's good for the geese should be good for the gander. And time again, right, you look at this, it's death by 1,000 cuts, because it's like, okay, some people said, oh, the Union League, even though I wasn't one of those people, but they would say the Union League was a little mistake, no big deal, slap on the wrist. But then you're like, well, wait a minute, Union League shit happens, and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's a little bit too much. What happens about Bobby Heenan? The Bobby Heenan stuff doesn't get talked about as much, but the connections Bobby Heenan and Johnny Doc, no one wants to touch that. Nobody wants to talk about the pharmaceutical connections. This is a lot of stuff that's just building. This is a rich woman. Helen Gim is rich. Helen Gim is not living like us. Well, she's not living. Yeah, I'm not a big old millionaire. My husband doesn't work. My husband works for the city. I'm an independent journalist. I got some money, but I ain't living like Helen Gim. I'm not living like that. She lives out on the Parkway and got some coins, okay? Her and her husband, who are both Penn alum, by the way. Fun fact. She's been well off. She's been very well off. I'm a fashion person, but has anybody, she dresses good. She dresses like money. I know my fashion. She's not, and there's nothing wrong with that. Dressing nice, I like to dress nice. There's nothing there. But I sometimes think that the problem that I have is that Black people in that dress nice, that are educated, go to Penn, we are shamed and oftentimes looked at as being less connected to the community. We're told that we're snobs and we're elites. We're all these different things because of our experiences. But it's anti-Black because the funny part is that people like her can have those same experiences. These white progressives can have these same experiences. People like Helen Gim, who's not black, can have those same experiences. And nobody ever questions their money, their wealth, their connections to capital. No one ever questions that with them. They could come up and get on the stage and say all the right words, but they're never going to be challenged the same way that Isaiah Thomas will be challenged. They're never going to be challenged the same way that Kathleen Gilmore Richardson is challenged. They're never going to be challenged the same way that Chris Rabb has had sometimes. But black people like us who do have progressive leanings and that understanding, we are oftentimes. Everything we do is put against the mirror. We can't eat fucking caviar. We can't go to a nice restaurant while somebody's saying, well, you got this nice thing, right? But let these people who are really rich, right? Like Larry Krasner. Larry Krasner is fucking rich. And Larry Krasner owns property. And Larry Krasner and his family live good. This man is wearing tailored suits with initials on it. That's his prerogative. But it's funny that no one questions that in these movements, because they're too busy checking the wallets and the pockets and the purses of black people. It's the racial double standards for me. And no one talks about that because it's always there. But this is someone who's probably got a pair of Jimmy Choo's, Louboutins, and everything else in between, that's wearing Prada and Gucci without the labels to be fancy and flashy, that's living really, 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 really well, okay? And can continue to take on these stances that some people will call anti-capitalist and very, very progressively woke and all these things. And that can be, two things can be true at the same time, but black people are not given that same level. They're not. I've seen her supporters, a lot of them are predominantly white, that will throw shots at me like I'm just some billionaire kid or something for any little thing I do. But at the same time, you sitting around here letting the progressive movement be ran by multimillionaires that come from well-off families with partners that are some of them at corporations and shit. And everybody sits back and rake in the dough and let them rake in the dough, and no one challenges that. But then you let some of these other folks that are coming up from the ground, right? That didn't come from money. Oh, Lord forbid they come up and get some type of job or position or promotion, and all of a sudden you want to act like they're on the same scale with. Listen, Helen Gim's money is closer to Alan Dom's than my money is closer to hers. I'm not saying she's as rich as Alan Dom, but she's closer to that upper echelon than being close to anything me. Like when you're talking about public school for your kids went to Masterman, and you was able to create a damn charter school for your kids to go to because you didn't want them to go to the public school in the neighborhood. I don't have family with that kind of influence. Like my ass went to the public school that I was in the zip code of, and I had to fight my way through and make my way out. But you're the same person shaming people for charter school. And I'm not getting into the charter school, public school education thing. I'm just saying that it's very interesting how there are double standards for non-black political candidates. There's just consistency. There's anti-blackness that has permeated over the years. And I'm sick of it. It always comes down to impacting black folks. Is there any room? If progressive movements in Philadelphia are supposed to be about dismantling systems of oppression, then when are y'all going to get y'all fucking foot off of the fucking oppressed? There's no difference between what they're doing and what they think the establishment is doing. The talking over, the gaslighting, the dismissing, the deflecting. It's tired. It's tired. It's tired. It's old. It's weak. It's cheesy. And it's being dominated by a bunch of people that are just showing their anti-blackness each step of the way. You can look at the people that decide to weigh in, and you can see the people who are getting in the conversations, and you can see the bias. It's there. So I'll just say, I see what's happening. I see what's happening. And mm, 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 mm. So here's some other things that is taking place. People have been asking me a lot about city council races in general. I've been following them. I'm going to talk more about it when we get into May. Honestly, it's been a very interesting year for the mayoral candidates race. I will be real with y'all. This open mayoral race has sucked the life out of these city council races. But I also feel like, to a certain extent, we kind of know how this is going to play out. I feel like we do. I can always be wrong, but something tells me that we know how this is going to play out. But there's been some endorsement drama around these city council at large races. So with Liberty City Democrats, which is the LGBTQ organization that's around local politics, they made their endorsements that had some major omissions. So the top 5 people they endorsed for city council at large, because you can vote for 5 in the primary on May 16th for Democrats. They didn't endorse a mayoral candidate, which was a big deal. There was some push for Helen, but Helen couldn't get enough votes, and they just decided not to support anyone else. So there was no mayoral candidate. For city council at large, it was Catherine Gilmore Richardson, it was Jimmy Harity, it was Erica Almiron, it was Rue Landau, and it was Amanda Malcolmary. The person that was left off that people were shocked about was Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas was there is no male person of color on that slate. The only man on that slate is Jimmy Harity, a white straight man who just got elected to city council in a special election. Isaiah Thomas has been serving one full term, and he's running for re-election. And Isaiah, as a black man, a black straight man, has promoted and endorsed and backed more openly gay candidates throughout his entire legacy than many of the other people on that slate. Now, that's a big deal, that as a current elected official, he had endorsed people like Andre Carroll. He endorsed people like Malcolm Kenyatta. He's endorsed other candidates. I think he's definitely vocally supporting Rue. He supported others, and he's used his ability to be an ally to also support and basically back other policies. His political team is very diverse. He just seems like the ideal type of person, and we know that he's going to get reelected to city council. I just feel like it's a dumb move on them to exclude him. Now, last week, I made a Twitter thread about how I was frustrated about this process, because it seemed as though, from what I heard, is that at this event, at this Liberty City Democratic event, they had an endorsement meeting. You have people like John Brady, all of these straight people that from the Democratic establishment that show up to this event to cast votes. And it was only a couple of votes that could have gotten away, but they were outnumbered. And a lot of these Democratic establishment folks, these straight folks, showed their ass up to an LGBTQ endorsement meeting to push the slate. And they really were trying to push Jimmy Harity, because naturally the person who had been left off would have been Jimmy Harity for Isaiah. But they came in there by the numbers, Sharif Street, all these people. And it's just disgusting, because what I've heard allegedly is that there have been gay candidates running that are supported and backed by the party that's been asked to bring Jimmy Harity around to events to help bolster his support in the community, because they're getting worried that he may not win. I think he's going to squeeze it out, but it's also a lot of maneuvering. So now you're asking gay candidates, allegedly, to bring Jimmy Harity out to these events to get him exposure. They had a really interesting, remember a couple of weeks ago I said this was just so pandering? They had Jimmy Harity do a drag event at a happy hour. And now it makes sense because they want to use that to bolster his relevance so that he can then be able to be an easy vote to get the endorsement. The problem is that it's just become very disingenuous to me because I'm just kind of like, I don't think that Jimmy Harity's a homophobe. I don't think for 5 seconds that he's not a good guy. But what I will say is that he hasn't done enough for the LGBTQI community to get that endorsement, to get that over a black man who served in office much longer and has shown himself to be an ally to diverse communities. I thought it was fucked up and anti-black that they didn't put a black man or a person, any man of color, in that role, especially knowing what we've known in our community. So it was just dumb. And they really forced Jimmy Harity. And honestly, karma is going to be real because if he doesn't win, just remember that this might have been the thing that bit him in the ass. But I don't know. He might win. Who knows? But it just doesn't look good for him. So then the Inquirer comes out with their endorsements. And their 5 endorsements shook the table. Now, this time, Isaiah gets endorsed. Catherine Gilmore Richardson gets endorsed. Job Iskobitz get endorsed. Aaron Moore gets endorsed. And Nina Mott gets endorsed. So that shook the table to a lot of people because a lot of folks thought that Rue Landau should have been endorsed. And I agree. I think Rue should have been endorsed for sure. They did not endorse Jimmy Harity, which is very, very telling. But let's be clear, special election candidates in other races did get endorsed. Anthony Phillips got endorsed for his reelection for Councilmatic. Canceli got endorsed for hers after replacing Maria in her special election seat. They got endorsed in their respective district seats. So it's interesting. But they left out Cindy Bass. They endorsed Seth Aberson, I believe his name is. They endorsed Seth over Cindy Bass. That was very telling. People are really saying that there could be a chance that Cindy might lose a seat. Are we seeing another Jamie Gautier, Janie Blackwell type of competitive jousting between the people? We'll find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. But as of right now, it's looking real, real interesting over there. But no, these endorsements are interesting. But here's what I'm going to say about Rue Landau. I think that what I have not liked is how a lot of the conversation has been vote for Rue Landau because she'll be the first openly gay candidate to win city council at large or be elected to city council, period. Now, we know John Anderson, who was the mentor of Michael Nutter, a black man who was gay, was in city council out. But we have to remember this is back in the 80s before, there were a lot of people being out in politics, and it was just like a don't ask, don't tell situation. A lot of this was kept privately. So to see an openly gay candidate run and get the Democratic nomination, the first being Sherry Cohen, who is still running for city council now, but it doesn't seem like her chances are as strong. But Rue is running, and there's a strong chance that Rue can win. And a lot of people are hoping she could win. I want people to understand, though, that whether Rue was a lesbian or not, Rue is ready on day one for that job. Before she took on this position, she was the executive director for PCHR, the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations. And if you all remember that name very well, you all would also remember that PCHR was very crucial in actually holding the neighborhood bars and nonprofits accountable for their racial discrimination. She's the one who led the investigation on the city watchdog front to look into acts of racial discrimination in Philadelphia's neighborhood. Now, you all know I reported on that for several years when I was the LGBTQ editor for Philadelphia Magazine. And when I looked into those cases and I looked into what was going on, what was great about my journalism is that my journalism propelled a city response, and it got, Rue Landau interested in creating an investigation that led to a bombshell report that was released in 2017. And in that report, it cited my journalism and my research and the work I did to help, launch this 30 years later, because there were reports of racism in the neighborhood back in the late 1980s. But the fact that I brought this back to the forefront many years later, and it prompted them to take action and investigate. It was a big deal. Rue didn't have to do it, but Rue did do it. Rue took a strong stance. She took an unpopular opinion. It was unpopular what she was doing because these bars felt like, why are we being investigated? Why are we going through this mandatory sensitivity training? She made them all do it. And a lot of people would have been like, oh no, that's too much, slap on the wrist. But she actually did utilize her resources to take action. And I interviewed her throughout that period of time. You can go Google Rue Landau's name, put in Philly Mag, put in my name, and you can see the interview I did with her years ago. Like, this is 5 years ago I did these interviews. And look who she's become and look what she's done. So I know that that time I could imagine that I don't think she had political aspirations because she used to be very reserved into herself. I would have never imagined her running for office. Fun fact, her brother is Rich Landau, who owns and is the big chef over at Veg. But I just say all this to say that Rue has a lot to bring to the table than just the conversations about her sexual orientation alone. I think that's a missell of her. She's a civil rights attorney. She's been a strong advocate for women. She's been a strong advocate for other people of color. The work that she did at the Philadelphia Commission of Human Relations, she had a lot of work to address racial discrimination that's happened to us in the workplace and other places. A lot of people who've experienced LGBTQI discrimination. She's been on it. And so I think we do need someone who understands the law and understands these types of systems, and will be an advocate to call it out and get the research and the reporting. She knows her job very well. And I think that it was a thankless job. And I think that, I don't know, I just think that people need to really consider her. I'll say that much. So, speaking of things not to consider, this Netflix show Beef, I was so close to watching it. And then when I heard about all this drama with this actor on Netflix, child, I am like, no, I'm not here for it. David Cho, fuck you. Ali Wong and Stephen Yoon, y'all are trash. Like, the stuff I'm hearing about this drama with this show, the statements that's being put out, David Cho's rape comments are despicable. It's disgusting. Everyone's been talking about how good the show has been, but the problem is that, it's just been a lot of things that's wrong with him. He was an artist turned comedian, but, in 2000, like 10 years ago, he was on. He co-hosted a podcast called DVD ASA with an adult film star named Asa Akira. And in 2014, they released an episode where he said that he engaged in, quote, rapey behavior. He had told this story about sexually assaulting a black woman who had been giving him a massage. And he said he started to masturbate in front of her without telling her. And he's like, I'm at a place, quote, and there's potential for a lawsuit, and she has given me no signs that she's into me or that this is inappropriate, that this is appropriate behavior. That he said in the podcast. He says, in my head, I go, do you care if I jerk off right now? And it sounds creepy in my head that I go, I can't say that out loud. So I go back to the chill method of you never ask first, you just do it. Get in trouble, and then pay the price later. He then went on to say that after the masseuse stopped the massage, he asked her to pretend like I'm not doing this and continue with the massage, which she did, he says. He asked to touch her. He touched her, and she pulled away. He then described escalating that accumulating him pushing her head down and forcing her to perform oral sex. This is very gross. But he continues to go on, and the woman says, you raped, allegedly. And then he responds, well, encouraged. And it says, I just want to make it clear that I admit that that's rapey behavior, but I'm not a rapist. And then she further on and says, you're basically telling us that you're a rapist right now. And then he responded, yeah. So now, all of a sudden, he says that he wrote that he was not a rapist after he was picked up by the media. And he says that the podcast is not a representation of reality. and that the stories he told on it were not facts. And he says, I never thought I'd wake up one late afternoon and hear myself called a rapist. He says it sucks, especially because I am not one. I am not a rapist. I hate rapists. I think rapists should be raped and murdered. I'm an artist and a storyteller, and I view my show on DVD ASA as a complete extension of my art. He then turned around and apologized later on. There's been other people responding and talking about some of the other issues about the work and his art, and some of that stuff came out. And it went viral on Twitter about how he did these things and said these things. And now his crew is beginning to try to defend this. Or try to justify it. And so there was a joint statement by Lee Song Jin and Stephen Yoon and Ali Wong saying, the story David Cho fabricated 9 years ago is undeniably hurtful and extremely disturbing. We are aware we do not condone this story in any way, and we understand why this has been so upsetting and triggering. We're aware David has apologized in the past for making up this horrific story, and we've seen him put in the work to get the mental health support he needed over the last decade to better himself and learn from his mistakes. Yeah, fuck him. And fuck them. See, this is the shit I'm talking about when we talk about community support, right? That there needs to be this intersectional, just cross, like black and brown, like people of color, right? When it's the anti-blackness for me. If a black comedian or anybody would have made this joke towards Asian people, there would have been an expectation that this would have been anti-Asian, stop the hate, rightfully so, and there would have been no excuses for the behavior. I'm just trying to figure out, how does someone make an elaborate, disgusting ass story about raping a black woman and thinking that, okay, it was a joke for entertainment, but not at one point in time on that actual podcast you say it. But then when the backlash comes, then you want to come forward and then you want to admit it. And it's just like, you want to say that it wasn't true, but it's like, well, why would you articulate and fantasize and imagine doing something like that to somebody? And why did you choose a black woman? How fucking racist is that? Like, to me, no matter how he skirts on this, it's disgusting, it's racist, it's misogynistic, it's misogynoir, it's hella violent, and it's predatory as fuck. And so the fact that you even are, like, let's just say we believe him. I don't fucking believe him. But let's just say that he they want to believe he didn't do it. The fact that you all knew this was okay, and y'all knew this, and y'all just was rocking with him, and now y'all want to come out and defend his ass. But if the tables were turned the other way around, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Yeah, no. So I hope that beef gets no fucking Emmy nominations. I hope this show does not get continued. I hope that David Cho is canceled. I hope this show is canceled. There's no excuse for this behavior. And the fact that they knew this and they continue to rock with him, and there was nothing that was said prior, is just another example of how there's double standards. So, fuck him and fuck that show. Speaking of people that we love, Janelle James interview in Variety. Janelle James, the actress of Abbott Elementary, Ava Coleman, she plays the character Ava Coleman, is a masterclass in how to clap back at folks. Love this episode down. I thought she was brilliant. I thought she was incredible in it. She's just a great overall just actress, but she really takes some good shots at Dave Chappelle, rightfully so. She says Dave Chappelle's comedy is boring now. I think she says, look, comedians are supposed to be funny and they're not supposed to take themselves seriously. And when they get into that element where they begin to try to be thoughtful and get applause rather than laughs, it becomes a different element. And I think essentially she's just saying, like, this dude, like, what is he doing? Chris Rock. She says Chris Rock doesn't get credit for bringing her. She does not give him any credit for basically making her career. She's very confident in this and very much so talks about what makes her different. I really hope that this Emmy season, I hope she gets an Emmy finally. I hope she wins Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. I think the variety piece is going to really help her resonate. I hope she gets more coverage. I hope that she's a contender. I mean, I know there's a lot of love for Shirley Ralph. I think she'll get nominated again, but it would be nice for Janelle James to win this time. I feel like last season she was the breakout on Abbott Elementary, but I feel like this season she kept the momentum going. And I just feel like Cheryl won. It was great, but I really would love to see them share the love. I really want, other cast members off the show. I want Quincy to win Best Actress this time. I know Jean Smart is going to be in Hacks again, but I mean, she's already won 2 of them already. I would love to see, this happen. Her being lead actress this time. I would love Tyler James Williams to win Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. I just think he aces it. And for Best Actor, I don't know who's getting that. Is it going to be, there's so many people it could be Bill Hader for Barry. It could be, Ted Lasso all over again. I mean, people really love that show. I could see, Jason Sudeikis winning for Ted Lasso, but it'll be interesting to see who's going to pull it off. But some people have already won, and I don't know. I mean, Ted Lasso is Ted Lasso, but I just like to see some other people win and some other good things, in my opinion. But no, her interview was really good. I really was a big fan of that interview. Thought she did really well. Moving along, Marcus Houston, he can go home, Roger. I don't know why the Marcus Houston conversations has made it through another week of cycle. He recently just said that older women have too much baggage, and that's why he's with a younger woman. I mean, he's trying every way possible to remix his predatory behavior. I think many people rightfully so believe you groomed that girl. You said you met her at 17, but more details have come out that he may have met her much younger because of his religious ties, because he's a Jehovah's Witness. And it just seems like the whole vibe and situation is just off-putting. I mean, the girl he's close to being nearly twice her age. It's obvious that he's not being transparent about his interest in her. The connections to other people involved in this situation, Chris Stokes puts a sour taste in my mouth. I'm just over him. I don't need to see nothing more. I don't need to hear nothing more from him. I think he's a weirdo. I think more is going to come out. And I just hope that girl leaves him sooner than later. As far as movies go, I haven't really watched too many movies actually this week. I watched Dangerous Liaisons, which is in, my French. Dangerous Liaisons. It's so good. It's with Glenn Close, Michelle Pfeiffer, and John Malkovich. Just came out in the late 80s. And looking at this film, I don't know how Glenn Close did not win. Glenn Close should have won. I don't understand. How did she not win? I just don't know. I thought she was really great in that movie. I'm going to find out who won. Because I'm just what happened that year? Oh, well, I know what happened that year. That makes sense. So, Best Actress, well, was that 90? Was that 88? Maybe it was 89. Sorry, the 89. So, it was Glenn Close. So, Jodie Foster won for The Accused. That's when Jodie Foster won her first Oscar. I would have gave it to Glenn Close for Dangerous Liaisons. I thought that was much better. Meryl Streep was nominated that year for A Cry in the Dark. Sigourney Weaver was Gorillas in the Mist. Melanie Griffith was Working Girl. I would have gave it to her that year. Then you have to remember the year before she had lost to Marley Madden for what was that film? It was let me look. so history was made. Well, actually, no, take that back. In 1988, Cher won for Moonstruck. Glenn Close was nominated for Fatal Attraction the year before, and that was, Holly Hunter, Broadcast News, Meryl Streep for Ironweed, Sally Kirkland for Anna, whatever that film was. Meryl Streep was getting all the nominations. I forgot about Ironweed. That's another classic. That's another classic Meryl Streep film. Meryl Streep was in a lot of films. I'm just like, damn, this woman just cannot. She was in this film with Jack Nicholson. That was that movie with Jack Nicholson. I forgot all about Ironweed. Goodness gracious. She's got a lot of nominations. I'll give her that. That was a film with Jack Nicholson she was in. But yeah, Cher won for Moonstruck, and Glenn Close was in Fatal Attraction. I mean, clearly Glenn Close should have won for Fatal Attraction. But Cher is iconic in Moonstruck. But the next year, I mean, I think Dangerous Liaison should have won. But, this is just, look at all the things. All the things. So yeah, a lot was going on that year in film. Lots of things was going on that year. And yeah, I'm looking at all these Oscar nominations. Wow. The movies, they don't make movies like they used to anymore. I'll say that much. So yeah, I was watching that. There was not any other movies that caught my eye. I was gonna watch the documentary on Little Richard. But it was a documentary about him and him being gay and his work in the craft and how he identified. It was a very juicy documentary. I hadn't watched it though. I've been looking into other things, but no, I was really into just watching an old classic. And a lot of my time was spent practicing for these debates and things, so that was part of it. What else? So as far as music, as far as TV shows go, a lot went down. I'm going to go into music before TV. So, music, briefly. Frank Ocean's situation at Coachella was a hot ass mess. Let me just start off by saying that it was unfortunate he lost his brother in recent years. He's been dealing with that, and that might explain why he's been like not really doing music. But my whole thing is that the Frank Ocean stand-up that has been, I've always said this, and I'll say it again, and you can check for reference. I've always felt like Frank Ocean was overrated. I never got to understand why people just really put him on this high pedestal. I don't know. I don't know if you gotta be high to listen to that music. But it's not horrible music, but it's just not all that. I just find him to be overrated. I think he's more I think people project a lot of imagination on him that is just not there. I think he has a couple of good songs. Like I think Thinking About You is a cute song. Swim Good, I think the Novocaine was a cute song. I liked his mixtapes when he first came out. Some of those songs were cool, but I never found him to be like this great bombshell artist. I thought Channel Orange was just so overrated. I didn't get it. And I just never felt like it was just so deep. I just felt like it was just like this performativeness of like deep thinking music rather than it's like super pretentious, but not really saying anything. I just always felt that way about a lot of his music. Think About You is a classic. It's a cute song. It's a great song. But like, I don't know. I just think for all the hype, Blonde, who remembers that album? I mean, his fans do, but like, all of this stuff is just, he's given us 2 albums, and for all the bark and the bustle, it's just not there for me. And so for him to be highlighting Coachella, I just was like, eh. But people are crazy about him, and he just disappoints. I've seen this man perform live, and it's just not good. He does not sound good live most of the time. He does not have vocals. The vocals are really just flat and bad and whispery and whack. I remember I saw him perform at the MTV Music Awards, and they were just trying to make this a big thing. And he just didn't sound good. But I just felt like he's just somebody who really leaned into identity politics to really push his whole appeal. Because I feel like if he didn't come out, no one would have cared as much. I mean, I think people like him as a producer. I think that there is interest in Frank. He was already hot before he did it. But I feel like that just kind of put him into a different conversation. And it kind of makes me think sometimes about Lil Nas X. Now, I do think Lil Nas X is very creative. I admire his creativity. I admire his music videos. I think that overall he's iconic in all he brings. But his music isn't the strongest. His music isn't the most tasteful. But I think what he lacks in that, he brings in the creativity and the pop starness of it all. And I think that that is what I've always wanted in a queer black artist, was somebody that was going to go all the way, like Adam Lambert. I mean, I wanted that, and I see that in Lil Nas X, and that's why I enjoy his music and I enjoy him. But Frank Ocean never was given all that. Frank Ocean was always passive. I'm not saying there's only one way to be gay or be whatever, but I just feel like a lot of people projected things on him that he never really leaned into and ran onto. What I love about Lil Nas X is that he is taking full throttle his intersections of hip hop culture, his swagger, his southern roots, his queerness, his youthfulness. He rides that and rides it hard, unapologetically. And that's what I can appreciate about him as an artist. Frank, I just think Frank is just there. Not really excited about him. Now, on Nicki Minaj, there's going to be some buzz about Nicki Minaj's chart performance with this song, Princess Diana, which she does with Ice Spice. Kind of bummed that Ice Spice is dealing with Nicki right now, but these young people have to learn their own way, right? So this song, Princess Diana, it's alright, I guess. It's okay. I'm just, Ice Spice is 23 years old. Bless her heart. I just think Nicki is just becoming a vampire. I just get the sense that Nicki is just gonna keep sucking the blood out of whoever is relevant and young, so she can just stay as relevant as she wanted her music. Her music is plateaued. She's not evolved with the times. Her lyrics, her whole appeal is just somebody who's just trying to fight against maturity. Even the way she acts on social media is not. It's just, what are you doing? I don't know. It's getting a little sad. It's already sad. But the thing I want to bring up about this, though, is that she has released like tons and multiple versions of this song. I can't even count how many versions of this damn song she's done. And people ask, why was she doing all these different versions? It's a streaming hack. Basically, she's trying to keep the streams high because she really does give a damn about chart performance. Nicki's obsessed with the charts. She acts like she's not, but she is. And she wants another number one, and she wants to prove this point to people. But this ain't no way to do it. You're always getting number ones with features. The only time she's ever had a solo number one was Super Freaky Girl, but that was just another song that sounded like Anaconda, which was number two in the charts. And it's just like, these songs are starting to all sound the same. They kind of been sounding the same. But they're all sounding the same. There's the same aesthetic. It's and it's just like, is there anything more? I just remember when there was a time where Nicki took risks and evolved and tried new sounds and new things. She just kind of just in this little box, and she's consistently churning out the same things. And look, she's got a fan base that buys it. She's got bills to pay and a baby to feed. I get it. I mean, because it ain't like Kenneth Petty is doing all that. But, it just seems like she's just so focused on other things. And the streamings, I feel like a lot of the multiple streams is all going to go towards one song, which is Princess Diana. So she's got like various variations of the same song. And I think the point is that the fans can all listen to different versions, or people will be playing different ones and using them. And all of that's going to be aggregated into the sales to count the streams and the equivalent album streams. They call them AESs or whatever they call them, equivalents. But they're all used as a way to then convert. So she may not actually sell many actual digital downloads. She will sell some, clearly, but a lot of the streamings will be counted towards that. And so she has a huge streaming guild. They'll convert in lieu of actual sales and downloads. It's a very messy process, but she's playing to juice the numbers. Everyone sees it, and she's not the only one who has done it, but it's like she plays these games, and then she likes to call out other people, but it's just a mess. So that's that on that. As far as TV goes, I've watched a lot of TV. That's why I haven't been really watching any movies. Abbott Elementary's season finale was everything. I'm kind of torn. I kind of knew that Greg and Janine wasn't gonna get together. I kind of wanted it though, because they have revealed that they liked each other, and I was like, okay, so that means y'all are dating, right? And they just, I think they wanted to just stay friends. They didn't want to taint it. But now I'm like, okay, so what's the energy for the next season? Because they spent the first two seasons having this like lovey-dovey vibe. And now what's happening next season? But I kind of like that Janine did that. I mean, I like that Quinta did that. Quinta Brunson, the creator. I kind of like that she did that because now, I mean, what could have been dragged on for entire seasons, it may still be dragged on. Who knows? She's kind of like resetting it because to a certain extent, yeah, you don't want to fuck where you work. And I don't necessarily think it makes the show good because how do they have this relationship while teaching? It's just, we like the crush, but but he wanted it, man. He wanted it. And I don't, I'm like, I don't know. I hope, baby, who knows? Maybe the when the show is over, when it ends, maybe they will finally be in love. Who knows? We'll see. But it's cute. It was a cute finale. I really appreciated it. Baddies had their finale, Baddies West, which was, it ended in violence, gunshots, a tour bus, the girls going to St. Croix or whatever, the vacation. It was ratchet. It was a ratchet. And, it was so funny because Mr. Johnson was in the living room. I had it on, and his whole attitude was, this is a whole bunch of energy about nothing, a show about nothing. Listen, Seinfeld was a show about nothing as well, and look how great it was. But I'm not comparing this show to Seinfeld. I'm just saying that the ending was just kind of like anticlimactic for me. I was just like, so they have their final performance. It ends with these girls fighting. There's a big ass fight. The girls try to get on the tour bus, and then shots are fired, and that's the end of their last big night. I just felt like that was just so much. And it was, one of the girls having a panic attack, an asthma attack at the same time. And she's also, overweight. So it's like traumatic to watch this girl have this. It's Rolly, if you've been watching the show. It's just so much extra shit that was happening. I was like, why is this happening? So that was a moment. But then they premiered, which I'm happy they premiered, Bad Boys Texas. Let me tell you, I know, Zeus is with the shits. But let me tell you that Bad Boys Texas, the season premiere, was fire. First of all, they have Razby, Orlando Brown, Prince from Love and Hip Hop Miami, Jonathan is coming back, is back on the show. Kirk Franklin's son is back on the show. They got a couple of new cast members that are very interesting. And I must tell you, that season premiere was fire. Now, that's how you do a show. They're going to Houston. They're going to Dallas. They're going to Austin. They're going through my state, okay, the Lone Star State. And they're going through, and it is bigger, badder than ever. Nally Nunn is the devil, but she knows how to create a messy show. And the show is fire. The first episode, I'm ready for what this show is bringing to the table. I am here for the suspense. I keep trying to tell y'all that men are messier than women most of the time. So these messy ass men in one ass house, this shit is about to be lit. I am highly entertained. The first episode shook me to the core. You are not ready. You think you're ready, but you're not ready. It is not like Baddies West. There's no passive aggressiveness. These boys get the rumbling immediately. But it's a good show. It's a very insightful show, and I'm curious to see what happens next. Bel Air is close to its finale. I think this week is going to be the season finale of Bel Air for season 2. This show has been growing and growing and growing. What are you doing, Carlton? My favorite character on the show. But Carlton you in trouble, baby. I don't know what's going on with Carlton, but Carlton's drug addiction has kicked in. He's sneaky as fuck, as always, but he's getting even sneakier. There's some shit going on with Will's character around this team. He's feeling brokenhearted. It looked like he's about to make him a decision to run away. I hope he don't run away I hope he doesn't. I don't know what's going on with Jazzy and Hillary. Oh my God. I've been mixed feelings about how I feel about Hillary. Hillary want to get back with her ex, who's this cute basketball player. And then there's Ashley, the other girl who's in the show. And Ashley is identifying as queer on the show now. She finally identifies as queer, even though there was hints and whispers. But she's like just calmly outed, but came out not to her family. She's kind of just identified as queer and kept it moving. I was like, okay, well, we just keep it moving. Then it was a very interesting way to just kind of naturally slid it in there, and then even no one even bleeped or anything. I thought that was very dope. There was a lot of energy on the internet about the character being queer and there's gonna be these problems. Let me just start by saying, first of all, the little girl identifies as queer. She hasn't done anything on the show that has been anything sexually suggested. She's not been sexualized. But y'all not worried about Will and this girl getting in on the double standards are real, okay? And these are quote unquote high school students, so they all should be technically underage. But y'all not worried about them little racy sex scenes, even though it's not too much going on. Some kissing, some hugging. I always wonder to myself why these shows have actors that are clearly more older than their characters are. They all play high school characters, but they're really much older. I've always kind of scratched my head on that because it's like they're clearly older, but they're playing high school characters. It's always weird, especially when they're like over 21 and much older than that. But what do I know? So then there's that. Power Book 2, been watching that. That show is getting close, I think, to its finale. I think we got a couple of more episodes, but it's getting close for that show. Monet Tahaja, listen, that recent episode, first of all, Kane, what are you doing, Kane? What are you doing, Kane? I just don't get it. I don't get it. You just cannot ever, But Tariq St. Patrick, that character. If there was ever a character on television that needed his ass whooped one good time, like, why don't no one whoop his ass? Like, he's had some shakeups, but he needs a good ass whooping. That child, I just cannot. Snowfall had its series finale. Mr. Johnson has been watching Snowfall since the beginning, but did not watch the finale. We'll watch the final season until this weekend. So, cruise through that. The ending, I'll accept it. I thought that the ending was a very risky ending, but it was a very important ending. He basically, I'm sorry if you haven't watched it, but I guess I'll say, the man is a full circle moment. And honestly, it's sad, but it was raw and it was real. And honestly, what happens in these drug kingpin films, either people die or these people get away with it. It was something powerful about the fact that in this case, you really see the rise and fall of how these people end up. And that throughout the show, there was these people who were bums on the street, drug addicts, and people struggling with addiction. People struggling with addiction and dealing through trauma. And you kind of look at them and think that they just always were like that. Or they would, but you find out that, hey, behind that corner was a man who at one point in time was wearing the nicest suits, was living the greatest life, had family, got married, was traveling, was well dressed, and then in an instant, because of money and problems, and you can fall short and become just another dude. You just never know what people's life are, and I thought that was an interesting way to, one, take away the glamour, because there was so much. It was a cautionary tale. It was so much glamour and grit and just suspense with this character. And to see them go from this hubris, this arrogance in this way, to them being in that way, it was just, it was so sad, but sobering. So I appreciate the ending of Snowfall. I don't know about Damson Idris winning an Emmy, but I do think he deserves consideration. I do think he deserves consideration. I do think a nomination with these multiple categories, he deserves a nomination. I don't know if he should win it though, but I do think I could see a case for a nomination for him. And I wish that a show like Snowfall, just like The Wire, got more Emmy love anyway. I don't think that the show's better than The Wire. People be like The Wire or Snowfall. I mean, we're not going to do that. The answer is The Wire, but that's okay because Snowfall had its own uniqueness, okay? I will tell you, the cinematography on Snowfall definitely deserves more consideration for awards. The cinematography of that show is just groundbreaking and brilliant, in my opinion. Succession this season, this episode, my God. I don't want to get too much into it because it has been, it may not be enough time. But all I want to say is that Kieran Culkin they need to go ahead and nominate him in the leading category. I don't see Brian Cox coming back anytime soon. And if he doesn't, then let him just be a guest actor and give him the Emmy then. It's time to give Kieran Culkin his Emmy. Jeremy has already gotten an Emmy. The actor who plays Kendall Roy, he's already been given an Emmy. Jeremy Strong is the actor who won. He's already won an Emmy. He's got his gold. This time it's time to take care of the other siblings. Shiv needs to get her Emmy. Roman Roy needs to get his Emmy. It's time for those two to get it. Logan too. None of the other three actors have won. Now I know that there's talk about, maybe Jay Smith Cameron might pull a win in the supporting actress category. I can see that. She's an incredible actress as well. She's such a sweetheart. And she's also a good person in real life. Her Twitter account, she's such a really good progressive. And she's just really dope. It would be nice to see her, potentially win. So I would definitely say, yeah, she should win Best Supporting Actress. And I would also say that, yeah, she should win Best Supporting Actress. And I would say Shiv should be in Lead Actress. This recent episode is definitely one of the top 5 best episodes of the entire series. There is a lot going on. The show is called The Kill List, and there definitely was some killing. And this is episode 5, so we have 5 more episodes left, so we're at the halfway mark, and I thought this was a really great way to shift the tables, to shift the conversation with the show and direction. So I'm really feeling it. I don't want to tell too much, but Shiv and Roman were definitely standouts this episode for sure. And last but not least, there is a show on Amazon Prime I've been watching called Dead Ringers. Oh my God. Rachel Weisz, which is married to Daniel Craig, by the way. They're a cute couple. But she's also an Oscar-winning actress. She won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in the early 2000s for a film called The Constant Gardener, which I watched. It's a very deep film. Ralph Fiennes in it. I encourage you to watch it. She was good in that, and she won an Oscar. Very interesting performance, but really good. She later got a nomination in one of my favorite movies in the past few years, me and Jamarcus's best friend film that we both love as best friends. We went to the theater and watched it, and we haven't got enough of it. It's called The Favorite. She was in that, and she got an Oscar nomination alongside Emma Stone, and then of course the Best Actress winner that beat Glenn Close, even though I was heartbroken that Glenn Close won, but I have to admit that Olivia Colman as the Queen Mary, in The Favorite is a great fucking performance. But I really wanted Glenn Close to win. But Olivia Colman was just so good. That whole ensemble, all 3 of them, there should have been an ensemble Oscar, like just to give it to like a great pair. Because all 3 of them kicked ass and slayed. They just slayed. But, we'll see. Mm. So we'll see what's happening. There's a lot, happening out there, for sure. But yeah. Let me see. Oh, in order for them to give it. Oh, wow. So I just heard this juicy update. They said that apparently the lawyer for Smart Mantic's lawyer told CNN it wants more than 787.5 million from Fox, and it will be demanding a full retraction. Ooh. Okay, we'll see what happens there. But yes, Dead Ringers, though, back to Dead Ringers. What I like about that show is that it's, first of all, it's a brand new show. So if you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon Prime for people looking for new shows. But Rachel Weisz plays a twin. She plays 2 characters, but they're identical twins. And they're in the healthcare field. And they are very spicy, very sexual, not with each other, but in the show. It's a juicy role. And they are basically these women who have this opportunity to explore experimental medical practices that advance women healthcare. It's very progressive. It's very forward thinking. It's a very unique show, and it's a very I don't want to tell too much of it, but it's a show that it's a lot going on, but it's not a lot that makes you go, what? Everything connects to everything. I'll say that much. It's not too hard to follow, but the acting is really good. It's really funny. Rachel Weisz is definitely going to get somebody's Emmy nomination and would deserve, if she won, but definitely deserves consideration. I mean, it's not easy playing two characters, and it's obvious she's hungry for an award because it's been a while since she's been like honored. She's gotten some nominations in the past for stuff, but I feel like she's going back to acting again, and when she acts, she kills it. So I recommend Dead Ringers. You should check it out. It's very short. It's like 6 episodes, an hour apiece. You could easily watch over the weekend, but it's really worth the watch. So that is everything for me. This is a long-ass podcast episode, but we have so much to catch up on. I mean, for starters, I'm very much so looking forward to Jeff Brown's, what's going to happen to his PAC this week. There is going to be a 6 ABC debate that's going to be running on Sunday or live streaming on 6 ABC's website on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, but I think they're going to air a version of it on TV, I believe, on Sunday. Mail-in voting begins this week. I'm not doing mail-in voting, but it is happening very fast. Public polls, an independent public poll will be coming out this week, either on Thursday or Friday, but we'll be finding out what the public polls are saying about the candidates. And, you know, I was excited about the polls, but they're kind of super public in the sense that they didn't do an independent poll where it was like analytics. Is more like they're letting people online vote, but it's like, well, what if these people are not from Philadelphia? What if these people, I don't know how they're going about the demographics. So it's just interesting, but it will be interesting to see what this is going to look like, if it's going to hold any value. I don't know if it is, because I don't know how skewed the data will be. So we'll see. We'll see how they make word of it, but it is happening. And then also too, if you do have C-SPAN, and you have a DVR, set your DVR right now. Put in, if you have it on your TV, just put in Ernest Owens, The Case for Council Culture, C-SPAN or something like that. Just put it in your mic or whatever. They are running now my book talk that I did at Harvard. They're now running that on that C-SPAN book talk. Apparently it came out and people saw me on C-SPAN. A lot of people saw me on C-SPAN apparently. And even friends of mine, I was like, what? How did you find out? But they somehow came across it. It is on C-SPAN. I had to DVR it because I did see the first time they ran it, but then I found out they ran another time, and so I got it recorded. They might run reruns throughout the week or something, but what you can do to get ahead of it is if you just put in your search for DVR, put in The Case for Council Culture, it'll come up. And then whenever it airs, just record it so you can be able to watch it. But it's a really great book talk. I had a pleasure watching. This is where I was at the Harvard bookstore, and I had an interview with Deborah Douglas, I believe, from The Emancipator. She's no longer there now, but she was there at the time. And we had a really great conversation about my book and my experience. And it's been getting some good buzz. So I really hope that people really do take the time to check it out. I'm personally excited about it. So that's it for me this week. There's so much going on. I'm just going to stay woke and stay aware of everything, and just keep following me on social and staying up to with the latest, because as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.